Welcome everyone. Here we are back, but this time with something a bit different. This is a weekly race, but in DDR, which stands for Dungeon Door Requirement, if I'm correct with that. So this is a different kind of, I would say rule set. And we're gonna showcase this weekly race they have on here to have some fun with all of us, right? So with that, I want to introduce Dobby Digital and Shiro for commentating today. Thanks a lot, because there will be a lot of questions. I can already imagine that. How are you guys doing?
Doing
Thank
great.
you. How do you?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. So for people who haven't seen, this is the weekly race that happens, as the name implies, once a week at 11 a.m. Eastern times for the DDR rule set. DDR rule set is a set for use with that uses about the same settings as the standard races. So if you're familiar with those settings, the only major difference, the useful cutscenes has been turned on. However, in terms of the allowed glitches, most things are allowed to be done. The only things that are banned are any tricks that allows you to clip into entrances to dungeons without having without opening, and glitches which get you to the boss door without opening the boss door itself.
Yeah, so we expect to see a lot of things that are going to be a lot different than standard routing. You're not going to require Ruto's Letter most likely, because there are definitely ways that you can glitch through to get into Fountain. Some items may be more important than others, like our hover boots. Although you can complete without hover boots, they are quite crucial to some of the tricks in some dungeons. So it would be nice to showcase these 4 racers and see some new glitches within the rule set that are allowed. And it is played on a standard weekly settings with enabling useful cutscenes, because there is a cutscene skip that you can do in Forest Temple with the pose. So definitely gonna hope we get to see a lot of these different glitches depending on what seed is rolled. But yeah, looking forward to it. Oh,
Before
wow,
we get too far.
Go ahead.
Perfect. We got the randomized green rupee, the best start.
Yes.
Before we get too far, I did want to shout out the trackers that we've got today. Thank you guys for your help. We've got Steve Master 92, Duke Dragon 28, iBot02, and Prince Sidon, who helped with the tracking. So thank you guys for your help.
Yes, so green rupee and sword chest. We found a bow in Midos, so that's gonna be good.
In terms of required compared to a standard seed, for the most part, you still need a bow, magic, in order to defeat Ganon, as well as other items you need to beat the dungeons for the medallions.
Yes, so we're already 1/3 of the way there with getting that bow in Mido's house. It does seem like 3 of our players are the top 2 players are going to do what is traditionally called the potential 3-song route, where they're going to go to basically South Hyrule, and then Valley, and then probably towards Castle to get Zelda's Letter in the first song. While the bottom 2 are going to do an early Deku, and Key is going to show off the infinite sword glitch by getting more Deku sticks earlier by utilizing this glitch, so you don't require as much money. And also ISG is definitely one of the best tricks to be able to use in this rule set, and also finding strength in open grotto in South Hyrule, so that's also a good sign too.
Who might be less aware of glitches, Infinite Sword Glitch is a trick where you crouch stab and interrupt the crouch stab some kind of cutscene, usually reading a sign or calling Navi, or even picking up bombs works as well. And that causes the game to think you're constantly stabbing every single frame. It's very useful for fighting enemies, as well as one other side effect is that you can't fall off ledges. Keymaker using here to navigate very easily around the Deku Tree.
And reading the first hint stone out of Deku Tree that River's way the hero, and also finding out in Lake that Market is way of the hero.
And save the hero as well. That's an interesting one. Spirit is a dungeon that normally, in order to access the child side, you need Requiem, and in order to access the side, you need Silver Gauntlets. In DDR, you need neither of those things, as long as you have hover bits and bombs.
So that's definitely interesting. If we do find bombs or explosives in general, bombs or chews, and hover boots, we may see an early spirit dip to see what that way the hero item or items would be. And it looks like Happen for is save and quit, and then going back out instead of going to Deku. And Richard is not a good boy today. Richard just gave us a bloopy. And yes, the infinite sword glitch does not mean that you are immune. If you do get hit by your enemy, you will lose your storage, so you will have to then repeat it. If you swing your sword, you also lose your infinite sword glitch. However, you can jump and roll and Z target. So based on those two, you do want to be careful. You can manipulate some bosses, such as Phantom Ganon, by using ISG, which is pretty cool. So that'll be nice to see later if we have to do Forest. Oh my gosh. I definitely need more coffee. I swear I am normally decent at commentating.
At least we had the weekly races at 9:30 in the morning Eastern time. Commentary at those times always tended to be interesting.
Oh, and Din's Fire in the market. That's probably potentially the way of the hero item. Also, feels bad, man. No fire arrow entry, most likely.
That is another one that is allowed in this rule set. Any method which allows you to light the torches gains you temple. The main one is obviously Din's. Another one that's fairly common is using fire arrow entry. However, in DDR, there's also by using a trick called Quick Put Away, Ash Child, to light the torches. That only gives you access Ash Child, however.
Skull Mask is dead. 40 is dead. And 50 is dead. And Sheik at Minuet teaches Saria's song. Just kind of grabbing some of the hints. And Begoron is also dead. All four of our players are definitely doing very different routing right now at this point. I'm not sure if he dipped on Deku and just decided to get the sticks. I may have missed that. But Golden finding a second bow in the Deku tree.
And it does look like he opted to not defeat Deku, which is a very interesting play.
Yeah. And Golden getting a leg up from that that wall skull that basically just helped him up on the ledge, and trying to ISG and unfortunately losing that stick and then using another one. That's okay. And I guess there was another hint that the Song of Time is on Bolero. I did not see that one. on getting a stick. See, the game rewards us in very mysterious ways.
Great, so now don't even have to worry about using ISG to farm them.
Yes. Oh, and it's in a stick upgrade even. Not just a stick, an upgrade. And Epona is at ZL. So that's interesting. Maybe a way across to get to Spirit.
The jump across the Druid Bridge is another one that can be done many different ways in DDR rule set. If it comes to that, the Spirit Temple Way of the Hero is likely. We'll see what our players end up using.
And Song of Time is Nocturne, which is awesome because that is my favorite glitch to use. Although it may be a hard required all dungeon seed for the normal standard reset weekly set, you technically can use what is called a hookshot jump, which used to be in the old 100% routing, where you would essentially use your hookshot and in a specific frame window, it would launch you up onto the wall of the graveyard, and you can ISG off of the Poe and walk all the way to the Nocturne pad. And then in this rule set, unfortunately, you cannot side hop across the loading zone into the dungeon. You do require, as Zabi was saying earlier, to open it with a fire source through one of the methods proposed. But having said that, that's going to be really nice to showcase, because most of these runners, if not all of them, definitely do know the hookshot jump trick and are looking at that all dungeons as something that is not required. So now we'll just have to wait and see if they may have to dip all dungeons to at least find the items and then just ignore completing them. So we'll have to see what this will turn out to be. But that's actually really cool to see.
And I can tell you for sure that all of these runners do know the hookshot jump, so we'll almost certainly be seeing that if they need to dip. And as VXR points out, we do know the medallion since Nocturne is on OOT. Even though we do not need to complete all dungeons, one thing we will have to keep in mind is the project will expect us to complete all dungeons. So now we may have Way of the Heroes, which will be useless for the players. And it's up to the player to keep track of if they need the items or not.
Yes, so let's hope we have everything we need to complete Shadow before we would have to start dipping what will be our stone dungeons. I don't know if any of our players have read the pedestal yet to find our layout, but definitely may not complete some of these stone dungeons if they're not required.
One other thing that we found that was nice in our two top players, both Arthur and Happenfors, they found bombs at the Kuko in Lon Lon Ranch. Bombs are a very nice thing for DDR, since they let you Hess, a very quick movement technique, as well as allowing for mini skips.
And I believe we also found ZL somewhere. Oh yeah, wait. Did you remember, Abby, where ZL was?
It would have to be the Epona song.
Okay, on Malin then.
Since those are the only two checked.
Okay. Thank you, I'm just making sure my notes are up to date. So Key is going to get Dins from Child Shooting. Let's see. And it does look like Deku was our light medallion. So require Deku eventually. as we're seeing Arthur and Happen Force going and completing that.
Bombs for Deku is one of the nice ones, since it does let you just ground jump for B1 skip. However, that is and most of the, if not all of these players will be familiar with some other method as well.
And it is also allowed in the standard rule set as well to use a ground jump if you do have bombs instead of doing the traditional B1 skip. So it does look like our 4 players are kind of circling around each other, as those that have completed Deku, or at least dipped Deku early, are now going through the 3-song route in terms of going through Market, and then we'll most likely go into Lon Lon to get ZL and then bombs before we're starting to see some new checks.
In general, it tends to be good to do song routes, partly because of the warp around all over the place. And in DDR settings, it is still required to have Zelda's Lullaby for Shadow Temple. So if that ends up being one of the required...
So from a routing standpoint, I wonder, after completing Deku and kind of completing the same, if all 4 of these runners will then go adult to at least see what dungeons would be required, so that we can either determine if they're going to rush going to Spirit as Way of the Hero, or also use those bombs and go to River to see what is there. We have quite a lot of checks that are in logic, but also a lot of hints that make it a lot tempting to go out of logic with some of the glitches that you can use in this rule set. And Arthur showing off the ground jump instead of the traditional B1 skip. Definitely nice to have bombs when doing that in Deku the first time.
He's also using flame storage in order to make it a little bit faster to burn the web. I believe that in one of the instances where flame storage is allowed in standard.
Yes, flame storage is allowed.
In general, for DDR, tends to be a very important thing. And so keeping track of the logic, even as you're doing a bunch of glitches, is a very important thing to be able to do in order to know.
Arthur picking up that light medallion on a quick kill Goma. And Happen Forward is quick behind him. We're getting close to starting to see some new checks now, which will be pretty cool. It does look like Arthur may be flipping Lost Wood. Maybe take those bombs and go to Goron City through the shortcut. But because they've already completed the first 2 songs of this route, we'll probably pick up the song that's at Saria, and then potentially go adult. He getting bombs.
And as Shirelli mentioned, the early routing that we're seeing is still very similar to a lot of standard routing. You really are only able to use the power of DDR once you have some items. So having a nice early route to go around and get a lot of checks really quickly is very...
Yeah, and it does seem like even doing the 3-song route, getting those bombs and strength does allow for a lot of opportunity. Those bombs can be definitely going a long way as they go adult. Yes, explosives are very much overpowered in a DDR rule set. It does seem like Arthur is going to do some swag strats and has his way all the way through Lost Wood.
One thing to keep in mind, though, in terms of hessing, is that it looks very flashy and very fast, but won't save that much time. So if you're worried about joining something like DDR and you don't know hessing, it won't save you a tremendous amount of time just knowing how to do full hess across the entirety of Hyrule Field compared to backwalking might save you a minute, maybe. So it's not something to be horribly concerned about if you don't know how to do it and want to join a race.
But also, it is a really cool feeling when you do get it, just saying.
Yes, it looks really cool, and it feels very good.
I'm like just so beyond excited that Nocturne's on OOT because the hookshot jump is like the best trick to show. It is so much fun. And also, all of these runners are banned if they do not cutscene dive into bottom of the well. I believe I saw in Race Room. So the last time we had a showcase for DDR, I don't know if we actually did see the chicken cutscene dive, which would remove the requirement of Song of Storms to dip bottom of the well. I actually would be interested in seeing if some of these racers would do so because they do have explosives and ZL, so you can full clear bottom of the well. But as it's not really in logic, that's something also that was mentioned to keep in mind is that the more that you dip out of logic, even if you can get it, you may be going further away from what the seed is wanting you to do. So that's kind of like the check and balance of trying to monitor what would actually be worthwhile in pursuing or potentially just a waste of time. And also seeing Serenade on Sarda.
And yes, last time that we had the DDR showcase, it was required to go into bottom of the well, and all 4 players played the song. And we are very disappointed in all of them.
Yes, so this is a chance to redeem them. Let's see if they do it. Especially since some of these runners were part of the showcase. And also thank you, Trent, for making the DDR command. So there is a wiki page with the allowed and banned glitch list. Same with standard GGJ, no item manipulation, wrong warp. So for any other questions that are not addressed in the wiki, there is a DDR rule set discussion page in the main Discord. So please feel free to drop your questions in there, and the team and players will be more than happy to either help getting you started or at least kind of showcase some of the fun glitches and tricks that we get to do in this rule set, which is kind of the happy medium balance between standard and no item manipulation, wrong warp.
And if you're looking for the TLDR for DDR, most tricks are allowed. There are some globally banned tricks. In terms of specific instances, you aren't allowed to clip into into dungeons, and you aren't allowed to clip into boss rooms.
And that's kind of the distinction where for specifically Shadow Temple, where you can skip over the loading zone And same with Jabu, if you did that as adult, you do have to enter the intended way. For Shadow with the fire source, for Jabu by procuring a fish for him to open his mouth as child. Looks like child fishing is just $20, so at least you get a refund. Yes, and I'm pointing out that even in this rule set, ZL is most likely, if not 100% required on the majority of the seats, specifically if Shadow is a medallion. Because you cannot boat skip, you are required to go on the boat to at least get to the other end of the dungeon. Looks like Golden going to do a couple of Goron City, and also 30 dead. So I guess for our always hints, we're still waiting for 2 Way of the Heroes, 3 Barons, Frogs 2, and a couple of sometimes hints based on tournament settings. In the tournament setting distribution for hints, there are 5 Way of the Heroes, 3 Baron, 5 sometimes hints, 30, 40, and 50 Skulls, Skull Mask, Goron, Frogs 2, and Ocarina Time are the hints that you will be seeing, and they are duplicated across the world. Oh, and Lon Lon Ranch Way of the Hero, so that makes sense since they got ZL, and also bombs.
We do know that Zelda's Lullaby is definitely required by logic, so that is probably our Way of the Hero. It's possible that it is bombs, if they lock other bombs itself, but we're fairly confident that it's going to be that Zelda's Lullaby.
We have not seen a second bomb bag. I think the only thing that we've seen a duplicate of would be 2 bows, both of which were relatively easy to achieve. I mean, technically, Sphere 0 and Sphere 1. And Key is going to be doing a Navi dive to get to Way of the Hero River.
And since he does have bomb, would be able to access that in logic. So this is just a faster method for getting there.
Oh, Baby Stabby and Bomb 2 Bowling. And looks like Half of 4 is going to go for it.
We also see Keymaker going now for a Mega Flip in order to access this boomerang that is probably going to be our Way of the Hero. That would indicate that Jabu would be required.
Very nice. And it looks like we're finally going to have an adult tip. And a slingshot on Chubol. Interesting.
That does mean that now they're, by logic, they'd be able to beat Goma, which most of our players have done anyway. But now the logic assumes they can.
So looking at the pedestal, Deku Tree, DC, Forest, Shadow, Water are going to be our required dungeons. So we may be seeing, if we find a bottle in time, the Poe cutscene skip in Forest Temple.
I know that Golden will actively temple until he gets a bottle, if he can at all help it. So I'm fairly confident we're gonna see that trick there.
Nice. And Forest Floormaster is, I believe that was Bomb Chews, so even though some may think that that's not worthwhile, I believe a lot of these players, if they receive that hint, will be going for them because chews are very nice to have.
If they have if they have hover boots as well, there is a nice bomb chew boost you can use to get to that check fairly early from one of the courtyards, and so that's part of the one of the fastest routes you can use for Forest Temple. So they will likely get that, assuming they have hover boots at that point.
And water's foolish. Lovely. So just find the boss key and move over. Hopefully they would have covers or hammer at that point, so we don't really require a long shot to get over to the boss door.
We also know that regardless of the layouts, this is logically an all dungeon seed. So Boomerang will be logically required for sure, either to get a medallion or to get the stones for Nocturne.
So the Big Green Dinosaur, Jubilee has 2 items. So the first item was the sword. The second item will be the slingshot. So all of these players in the race, I believe there are at least like 8 entrants that are currently actively playing the seed, of which we're restreaming 4. So you may see different checks at different times for these players, but they are going to be receiving the same items. And yes, also, Duke, I'm missing a lot of these checks too, because keeping track of 4 players is very, very difficult, especially when now they're all going in different directions. But if you do watch other players in a race, please do not spoil anyone in the in this channel, because we'd like to see them as it happens from one of our 4 players.
DXR pointing out that we just got one of the most useless Baron hints that you can get, Wasteland, which saves you all of 1 check. Thanks, game.
No quick put away today.
We do, however, get a hint that Water Temple was foolish, which is a very nice one to have. That does mean that, assuming they need to beat Water Temple, they just need to grab the boss key and just go straight to the boss.
Yep. And long shot not required for that either, depending on what items they have at the time. So water is required. I believe it was the Shadow Medallion. So we may be seeing some of that.
Also, Golden just pulling off a beautiful Hess across Hyrule Field. That was gorgeous.
And Keymaker joining the team always by a shield. By buying a Hylian shield in the bazaar before going adult, looks like. Oh, and a bottle in DC! That is awesome. That is a very good find.
It's extra good to buy a shield in this case, since we have bombs so early. A lot of bomb tricks that you can do in DDR depend on having bombs and a shield, so it's very good to have one, and definitely worthwhile to buy a shield if you haven't found one already.
Yeah, I do have to say, in learning this rule set, that is probably the hardest transition that personally I've had to make, because I am always team never buy a shield and always do forest without a shield, so that is very difficult to try to adjust to.
One thing for Forest Temple that makes that extra bad is one of the best techniques that this has in terms of just quality of life for low effort is being able to do ISG on Phantom Ganon, which makes it effectively trivial, but you need a shield for that.
Yes, and I don't think you've ever enjoyed Forest Temple as much as doing ISG and Phantom Ganon. That is probably the most satisfying boss ever, especially because you do not have to volleyball him anymore.
So here we have Keymaker, in case you missed it, giving us a good view of all of the medallions. So we we have required in for our dungeons that are required. We have. Let me just scroll up.
And also, while you're scrolling, second bottle in DC, although it was just a regular Poe, not a big Poe.
So yeah, so in terms of our required dungeons, we have Deku, DC, we have Forest, Water, Shadow, and that's it. So those are our required dungeons that we have to do. So we do know that we need bombs for King Dodongo, or at least explosives. We found bombs very early, so we'll be able to clear that fairly easily. For Phantom Ganon, we require Hookshot in order to get in. But beyond that, we should be able to complete most of the rest of it with either Hover Boots or some Strength. For Morpha, in order to access the dungeon, we need a Hookshot. And then when within it, it depends where the boss key is, since we do need to find that. We can have some extra required items there, but you might be able to do it with only a hookshot. For Bongo, we found the Zelda's Lullaby, and in order to access it, they'll need to find magic. Fire Force, for the most part, they already have found that against fire.
Yes, it looks like Force is going to do an alternate method, which you can actually do in the standard rule set, because this is just a setup, not technically a glitch, but a very still complicated setup to jump across to get the boomerang as adult.
Very interesting setup he used, though, where you do an elaborate setup and then jump into the river. I can do that one. The one where you actually succeed and get the item, I don't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and seems like it's not worth getting right now. I mean, which makes sense. Boomerang cannot be used as adult, but at least it's nice to know it's there. So, if you're getting frustrated with the trick, that's something that you can easily come back as child using the chicken to go and get easily.
We also know that the boomerang is logically required in order to beat Baronade in order to get Nocturne, since the Jabu gives stone. However, our players will not need to do that, as they'll just be able to do the hookshot jump to get into Shadow early.
Looks like nothing from Graveyard yet, from either Shieldgrave or both Dompe races. Also, nice thing about some of the recent updates, I think this was in 5.0, but if you complete the Dompe race under a minute, you automatically get both items instead of having to run it twice. The first item, regardless of your time, is always guaranteed, but in order to get the second item, you are required to finish under a minute. So if the first time you run, you do get it under a minute, you get both items, so you will not have to repeat the race. So that was a nice quality of life addition. And also with early ZL, we can see what song is in Composer Grave.
It is possible using an unloading trick to check the song at Sunsong a little bit earlier. However, that tends not to be used very frequently, as it takes a little bit to do, and it's very rare that you need a song that desperately to take that extra time.
And Requiem at the windmill. So getting you your access to the spirit early.
That does mean having Requiem does mean we are likely not going to see many ways across the Druid Bridge this particular time. So most of these players will probably opt to play Requiem and then do Revert instead of going across the bridge. But who knows? We may end up seeing that just to do some extra checks. We also found in the Composer's Grave, one of our players found Bolero, which is another song that's nice to have to move quickly, but isn't necessary by any stretch, since you can just mega flip to access Fire Temple early.
And also getting ice trapped on adult archery. And also, 3 of our players ain't cacking Graveyard. So Sunsong Grave is dead. Playing the Sun Song for the Re-Dead will just give a piece of heart.
Yeah, no, we don't have Master Quest in these settings. It is, all the dungeons are strictly the same as vanilla.
Was that arrows or hovers in the Graveyard Heart piece? I don't know if you saw that, Bobby, from Arthur.
Ooh, I did not. That's a very good one to know, though. Hover boots allow for a lot of tricks, so hopefully another one of our players will give us another look at it.
Or if someone with more keen eyes that can see it that quickly. It looked like the tail end of a bundle of arrows, although you can't really tell with also hover boots and the golden bottom with the wings. Very, very tough to see. I'm not sure how these players can actually glimpse at it that fast. That's quite a skill. And Arthur and Happy Four is having a race, literally together with Dompe. Oh, and Arthur getting hit in the face with a thing of flames. Very nice, Dompe, thank you.
And Happen Force clinching that sub 50 time. Good.
Looks like Golan's going to take a peek at Din's Fairy while he is still collecting skulls. So we do know 30, 40, and 50 is dead, but that does not mean that 10 and 20 don't have anything. 10 and 20 are sometimes hints, very rare. Actually, I don't even know if 10 is a sometimes hint. I have gotten a 20 before. So we do not know if 10 or 20 skulls is still required for this.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever encountered a hint for 10 skulls, but I have definitely encountered some for 20.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Din's Fairy is just a floopy. And Cracked Wall, not Cracked Wall, the Wall and Death Mountain Trail is also not needed.
I'm not entirely sure why Keymaker those Deku Seeds. I'm not sure if he thought they were different item, but I don't think you are likely to ever need more than 30 Deku Seeds in any given seed.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I wonder if he looked, though, at the top of DC as he was going up trail, so potentially didn't know what the item was before just jumping down and side hopping to it. And it looks like we're not getting another look at what the Graveyard Heart piece was. Gonna hope it was just the bundle of arrows and not hovers. because you depending on the items that the players will have at any given time, if you don't want to plant the bean, you can actually hookshot jump to that area. So there are a lot of different setups that you can achieve that item without their traditional means, if that is something that I actually want to get. But we don't have a hookshot yet. Which is pretty sad, is that we're almost 45 minutes in the seed and we do not have a hookshot.
Also, in case you're curious on Happen 4's end, yes, you can climb that wall, even though it really looks like you shouldn't be able to. We are opting to dip into DC, which is a good play, since regardless you need to complete it, and you will save go moding it, but that's not very likely.
Yeah, there are a lot of tricks if you had a bear in DC. If we had choose, you can do a setup to chew both eyes, which is also allowed in standard. However, with DDR, as we've learned from some other players that are more experienced with glitches, there are alternative ways that you can light both of the eyes, either using a doom jump or the bomb flowers as well, which are very complicated, but for those that are familiar with the tricks may find that worthwhile to do.
Basically, if you want to go for the bomb flowers, you can ask Dotso, because I'm pretty sure he's the only one crazy enough to attempt that. The Doom Jump, though, is a fairly common strat for Bingo, and so those who may be less familiar, Doom Jump is a trick where you use the hook shot and die to the ladder, and it causes you to soar upwards, and once you hit the bridge up top, you then get revived by a fairy in a bottle.
Which also is ironic that you find 2 bottles in DC today, too. GTG, Last Way of the Hero, that I probably missed, that the rest of the group probably has already seen. So we do have all 5 of our Way of the Heroes. GTG standing for Gerudo Training Grounds, which is too long, so everyone uses the acronym. So definitely getting an early Epona makes it a lot easier, and in logic to access Gerudo Fortress, and then also Spirit, even though we did get Requiem a little bit later. So that may be another play that a lot of these players will then go towards. There are tricks, even in Standard, to do a hookshotless GTG by kind of manipulating the floor master to pick you up and basically collect the rupee for you as it's taking you back to the entrance. So that will be a very interesting play to see what is Way the Hero.
We also threw Dini there twice now attempt. The first it looked like a mega side flip, and the second looked like a mega flip, and neither time worked. Well, you should hopefully get it this time. It's just allowing him to access the Bolero song a little bit early.
Nice, and succeeding. We did get the hint for Song of Time being on Bolero, which if they're going to be dipping Forest early, which it does seem like that may be the play, once they find a hookshot, because you do require the hookshot, but do not actually. No, you have bow, so I wonder what the Song of Time would be, unless they want to check right side GTG.
Yeah, in DDR, you are also able to completely skip Song of Time in every instance that's used, using various clips and other methods. So Song of Time is very much more of a convenience if you happen to get it, but very much not required. Personally, I'm very curious why Arthur decided to do the jump to get that song. I'm not sure if he forgot it was Song of Time, but very interesting that he opted to do that. It could also be for GTG in order to save a key there, is another possibility.
You do save 2 keys by using the Song of Time block to access right side.
DDR also does allow you to save scum, so you can use a couple keys to check the side and then reset if it ends up not being anything useful. So that is also a valid strat to use there.
And Happen Before is also showing off a cool glitch to allow a damage boost to store the switch being held down so that you are not required to push the block all the way down from the top and pull it into that switch.
On Golden Simpriki's side, we're seeing a trick to unload King Zora. So if you load King Zora in a very specific, the next time you come up, the ice is just completely gone. And it's very specific on your positioning, but beyond that difficult to once you get to learn it. There's also an easier version using trade items.
Why would the timer pop up after they talk to King Zora? That's interesting.
That is very bizarre. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. I'm like, he got the item which was just arrows, and then all of a sudden the timer popped up like it was the trade quest sequence. That happens if you have the eyeball frog. Okay.
Oh, interesting. That's unusual. I didn't know that could happen.
Learning every single day, and it also seems to not want that timer and is going to try to do a English. A death on purpose. There was another fancier term that I had in my mind that I just could not spit out, so I'm just gonna say he died on purpose.
Death warp?
Maybe it's not really like a death warp.
He was damage buffering there in order to to reduce the number of bombs he needs to use, and just really quickly the iframes on the explosion to just die very, very quickly.
Yes.
Intentional death?
Yeah, that's what it was. Intentional. Thank you.
Got your back.
Yes. And Golden picking up that boomerang on the way out.
I think Arthur is just showing off here. He was doing SS there, which is not faster than backwalking, but he opted to do it. It does prevent the owl from talking to you, however, that is not in Rando.
Looks like Arthur's going to pick up the song that's on Minuet, which is Saria. I believe it was our sometimes hint.
We do also know, since we had a Saria song at Minuet, that you're logically required to get Minuet of Forest somewhere, which I don't think any of our players have found yet.
Yep. And Song of Storms on Prelude. Interesting. That means that we could actually see Bottom of the Well.
That does logically open up Bottom of the Well. We still know that at least that Arthur or whoever ends up going to Bottom Well, if they do, clips inside, especially as they disappointed us last time by not doing any of those.
Okay, and I guess the remote South bombable grotto in Hyrule Field is the eyeball frog, so that is what set off the timer. We do not need to complete the trade quest because we did receive the hint that the Goron check is dead.
It would definitely be very interesting if our players tried to play using a DDR pad. I would personally love to see that. We also see Happen Force doing a strat that it's also able to be done in Standard, where you use the bow to blow up one of the bomb flowers and very easily wake up or stop the Goron. For some reason, that is easier than the intended strat.
You do also want to be careful, though, because if you stop the Goron on the bomb flower, you do have the potential to soft lock yourself because he will not stand up to allow you to talk to him.
We also saw on the top left, Arthur just did a different version of the clip to get into Zora's River. He's using a specific clip to clip into the block as opposed to Keymaker when we saw him that did a Navi dive. Navi dive is an easier technique to do, but it is reliant on Navi being available. So it's more situational that you're able to use it.
And Arthur doing looks like a mega flip to get their boomerang as well. And Minuet is on Requiem, so that actually was accessible. So there is a way to get into Forest Temple since the Saria is blocked at Minuet.
And Estancia, yes, in general, the TLDR for the DDR rule set is that most glitches are okay. There's some glitches that are globally bland, including hovering, item manipulation, and realm warping. However, you do need to get into the dungeons using the intended method, or opening the door, at least the intended method. And subsequently, you also need to open the boss door in order to access the boss.
And also, the biggest thing is Ocarina of Time has been hinted is Nocturne of Shadow, which is definitely something that, if not all of these players, will not be doing full AD to get that song. So we hopefully will be seeing all 4 of these players hookshot jump their way to the Nocturne pad and then open Shadow with some means of fire source. And Din's was accessible in Child Shooting art gallery, so unfortunately, we may not be seeing fire arrow entry or quick put away or other methods, but we still would be able to see the really cool jump to get to that pad without the required Nocturne on logical all dungeons.
We also see someone might opt, if they have fire arrows, to do the fire entry just for the swag. We can hope.
We can hope, but I guess that depends on the players. I'm not sure how many of these players really like doing fire arrow entry. I'm not sure if you're more familiar, if any of them have preference. And also,
I do know.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that we found Naru's Love on Frogs 1, which is also ironic that is in Way of the Hero River because Naru's Love does actually have a purpose in the DDR rule set.
Yes, as hinted, Naru's Love does allow you to do very easy loses, since the way Hess's and Mega Flips work is by using the invulnerability frames from rolling. But if you use Naru's Love, you have an invulnerability frames, so it makes them very easy to do. Oh, on the subject of fire arrow entry, I do know that both Happen Force and Arthur Dini are both comfortable with doing it. However, they also have the option that they want to go fast in races. So they, assuming they have access to Dins, they will likely opt to use Dins.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he's going to be checking the box, so we will see what that item was. That does indeed look like arrows.
Okay. And looks like Arthur's going to do the Child Spirit dip. Hoping that the Way of the Hero is on Child's side. We don't have... actually, I don't know if you really fully require hovers to get into Adult Spirit. Are there ways to do it without hovers? I know that you can do some Hesses, but I think they all require some form of hovers to clip behind the block.
I think there is. I think there might be a version that uses a statue climb, where you climb up a statue and jump. But I forget if that needs hovers as well.
It does require hovers, because that's the one that I know that I can never execute well.
Oh.
I have seen Golden do a hover slide by using the bomb explosions.
That one definitely requires hover
Yeah.
boots. That's the one I use as well.
Mm-hmm.
That one also requires some kind of first-person item in order to reduce your jump distance, which usually use hookshot, but bow should work for that as well.
And I guess Arthur did not pick up the item. Confused.
Did he remember to light the torches?
Oh, he didn't remember to light the torches, and you don't have magic, so you can't use dins. Oh,
Yeah.
that feels bad.
Feels bad, man.
Yeah. And yes, you can mega flip into the crater fairy. There are ways that you can skip hammer blocks. You can also long shot the chest in the hammer blocks in Valley by using I forget the proper term, but it's just manipulating the actor loading, right? In terms of flipping that.
Yeah, you can do what I see referred to in the tricks as like culling the actors, that it doesn't load it correctly. You would also likely be able to do a weird shot in order to access it, assuming there are walls that are suitable for that, which I believe there are. But that would require a hook shot.
Yeah. So it looks like there was a key on Child's side. So Arthur is going to continue climbing to see if they're going to find the Way of the Hero item in Stone Spirit. And happy 1 hour! And still collecting skulls. I don't believe we've seen a 10 check from any of our 4 runners yet, which may still have something, since we're running out of checks to at least receive progression.
We do also know that the seed will logically expect them to get that hammer that Arthur just found, which could be the Way of the Hero here, since this is logically an all dungeon seed. That's the worst item you would want to find.
Yes. For a stone fire, for an all dungeons, for Nocturne of Shadow. So I really, really, really hope that's just a complete fire and not because there is something in fire. Maybe that's to their benefit that they got Song of Time, so they could full clear fire if they really wanted to. Yeah, that is not a good feeling for a DDRC to have a Way of the Hero hammer for a stone fire.
Yeah, that is very definitely the last item that Arthur was hoping to find here. My guess, he's still continuing in the hopes that he finds some other Way of the Hero.
Yes. I mean, if not, then GTG it is. Let's try another Way of the Hero. If at first you did not succeed, try another Way of the Hero. And Arthur showing off another use of the flame storage, which you can also do in standard rule set by doing flame storage on the torch right outside the loading door to this room. If done at, I mean, it's a very lenient trick, but if done at the right time, when you take out your stick with the loaded flame, you can actually light that first torch, which will then keep it extending longer to light the other 2 torches in this room and require no need to get the silver rupees. So that's also pretty nice to have.
There are also some setups in order to use bow and Din's fire in there, as well as fire arrows, of course. However, as Child, the fastest way is to use that flame storage.
Yes. Looks like we're going to see what is on the silver gauntlet chest. So to answer the question on the way the hero hints, so even though we are playing this seed on the dungeon door rule set, dungeon door requirement rule set, this is still on standard weekly preset. So because Ocarina of Time is Nocturne, it is logically required to complete a stone fire. In order to complete fire, you do need hammer. So even if we're not the happiest that hammer is in a way of the hero spirit to complete fire temple, it is technically required logically to beat the seed with the way it has been set up. And Way of the Hero is generally used for items that are required to complete dungeons or to complete the game. So Way of the Hero for hammer would be, obviously you need to complete fire, for hookshot and longshot to complete water. I don't believe logic takes into consideration in this preset gold scale water. You would require iron boots to complete, specifically if there is actually a item in Central Pillar, you are required to have iron boots. Silver boots is logically required for Shadow, as well as Dins. Fire Air Entry is not part of the standard preset, so Dins is a Way of the Hero item. So kind of going along of logically what would you need for each specific dungeon, Way of the Hero will point you to that specific item. And a Way of the Hero location does not just have to have one item, it could actually have multiple.
Another Way of the Hero item that sometimes comes up are tunics. Just in order to have enough time to kill Lavaja and have enough time to get the item in the Central Pillar of Water Temple. However, all of our runners are going to be experienced enough and are likely have enough hearts not to worry about those requirements.
And yes, there are a lot of non-child friendly terms that we have for Way of the Hero items.
Especially ones that end up being useless and point you towards a stone dungeon you don't need to complete.
Yes. I'd say another Way of the Hero item that is particularly useless on these settings is Rudo's Letter.
Oh yes, Rudo's Letter is another one you never hope to see.
Yeah, it's basically a bottle that you can't use and are teased with, especially if it's the first bottle that you get. Because if you have some sort of explosion, choose preferred, but you can do with bombs, you definitely do not need Rudo's Letter to get into Fountain to go to Jabu. And the adult glitch to get behind King Zora is even easier. So to be presented with a bottle that you can't even use is just really, really cruel and unusual torture, especially in this rule set.
It makes it even worse too, since if you do happen to empty out that bottle, since you need it, that moves King Zora and makes the unfreezing glitch that we saw Golden do earlier harder to execute. I also hope Path Force wins, mostly because he's in, so I'm biased in that front. Funnily enough, an hour into the run, we finally see Keymaker going back into Deku Tree. He is notorious for saying there's nothing good in Deku Tree, so it's not overly surprising.
I mean, they're not really wrong. There was not much to find in Deku, but it is unfortunately required. Looks like Arthur's thinking of where to go. Because we are kind of locked at the moment. It is funneling you to try and do your stone dungeons, especially since they just picked up Hammer from Child Spirit. Now is where the time of there are a lot of things that we can do out of logic, but is this a time that we should be following the logic of the seed and potentially go to Stone Fire, or do we want to ignore that and go to Way of the Hero, go to Training Grounds and see if there's something else there that may help open progression? Because we do have to complete water, there are still 2 hook shots in the world, so there is a chance that a Way of the Hero in GTG is one of those 2 hook shots, which would really open up everything, because I think that's the one item that the players are looking for in order to really blow open all of the last dungeons that they have to complete.
One thing also to keep in mind is that we have found a Pona song, so they are logically able to access GTG. However, without hookshot, there is limited amounts they can do in there. Also, yes, we are indeed hoping that they go to bottom of the well, and most importantly, that they clip into bottom of the well.
Yes. And Arthur is going to not Gardu Valley, but going to the remote southern grotto to get Eyeball Frog, I guess? Or not. Yes, yeah, to get Eyeball Frog. Yeah, Bottom Well is actually something that is in logic because Song of Storms is accessible and they do have explosives and ZL, so that is fully able to be cleared in logic. So there are a lot of options. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Even without Zelda's Lullaby and explosive, you are able to fully clear, or at least almost fully clear, the entirety of Bottom Well using a variety of tricks. However, those tricks tend to be a bit slow. In particular, Blank A, and requires a bit of setup, and then you have to do it for every single item you grab. So at this point, given our current items, and where would you opt to go, Shirley?
Let's see. I probably would have already gotten Song of Storms because I like to follow song chains. So when I got Requiem, I would at least check the song, even though I can't do any of the spirit glitches right now. So I would probably dip Bottom of the Well, especially since ZL was early accessible and same with explosives. So I'd say that would be my first choice, even though I really hate the well in general. And of course, I would cutscene dive because basically murdering a chicken is one of the most fun things to do, to dive into Bottom of the Well. Even if I had the song, I'm still gonna glitch my way into it. What would you do, Dobby?
Personally, I would go for the Way of the Hero in GTG, and then do some of the glitches. Without hookshot, there's only two checks you can't really do, so that would be my choice at this point. The well is definitely also a good choice, and of course, you are required to clip into it. It is actually illegal to play the song. We didn't tell any of our runners this, but it is.
Yeah, they will be shamed if any of them play the song. Yeah, it does seem like Arthur is going to go for the play with really bad Epona. Epona's an awful horse. To try for that Way of the Hero. I think one of the things that I've struggled with DDR is how far out of logic is it worth it to go? Before you really kind of have to sit back and say, what was the seed asking me to do? Oh, and magic! Alright, so having hammer is actually not that bad if it gets you magic.
We do know that that is an item that you can get with glitches, but they are not likely to do that, especially if you have hammer. So I must admit, when I first saw him walk up, I forgot he had the hammer and was wondering how he's going to get that.
So dipping Child Way of the Hero Spirit was definitely worth it. Now there is hope they may not have to complete Stonefire.
We do also know that that's going to be useful for them in order to access Shadow Temple. In DDR rule set, you are required to light the torches in order to enter. It doesn't matter how you do so you can use Din's Fire Era entry, or even Quick Put Away as Child. However, that they have Din's Fire and Magic now, so that's likely the method they're going to use. Or at least...
go ahead.
Oh, at least Arthur and Happen Force are likely to do that, since they have this insistence on going fast, and not when I'm using Fire and Treasure.
Yes. I was going to say, as soon as we find a hook shot, it is very possible that they may skip the use of having hovers at all, and just dungeon progress, because they would then be able to complete Forest, they can complete Shadow without hovers by using the Mega Flip. And then we just need either 2 scales or iron boots to go through water. So there are a lot of things that we can do.
And even to access water, there are a number of tricks you can do, most notably in Ocarina Dive, where you just kind of inch your way forward and just dive down to the bottom to get in. And from there, you can navigate fairly easily around Water Temple by clipping out of bounds.
Right. So in the Dungeon Door rules Dungeon Door requirement rule set, you are allowed to use Mega Flips. I think the distinction is when you're using a hover boosted jump or storage to basically jump your way by using explosives and stopping at certain points. So Mega Flips, Mega Side Hops, other types of damage boosts like Hesses are required, or not required, well actually are required, are allowed in this rule set.
So yeah, so the definition of hovers for the purpose of this and for speedrunning in general is that hovering requires that you have infinite sword glitch and a damage source that stops you from falling while you're in the air. That contrasts with mega flips, which you're just using the bomb effectively to push you further backwards. Another thing that seems similar but it isn't technically a hovering is you are able to use infinite sword glitch at the true spinner to stop yourself from falling. Since you're not using a damage source, it is just that the ground happens to fall below you, and I mean that's not your fault, is it?
Definitely not. ISG is one of the greatest things that you can use in this type of rule set because there are so many uses for it. And it does seem like Arthur is doing the hookshotless GTG strat, which you can do in standard as well, where you're just manipulating the actor to pull you up into the rupee. So you do have to kind of pay attention to the sound to make sure that you collect it. And I'm not sure, does look like he was successful. And then what Arthur will be doing by getting past the wall of flames is that there are a couple of setups. You don't actually have to do it with this setup either, although I personally find it easier with the setup because it's more repeatable. But you could just manipulate the loading zone and walk straight across it. The same thing that you can do in Fire Temple to skip using a key to get to highest score on.
Yes, firewalls are definitely something in the game that were not programmed very well, and you can easily skip past them. You are also able in DDR to use Super Slide, a Hess, or I don't know if an ESS is actually faster, but a Super Slide and a Hess in order to just go straight past it before it has time to go up. It's fire suggestions, if you prefer. They aren't quite fire walls.
Yeah, they do not stop you. They look like they can, but they don't. There are a lot of different places in Ocarina of Time in any rule set that we manipulate the use of fire. Mostly to get chests that are blocked by fire by damaging yourself and then just walking straight through that. Oh, it looks like he is going to do the intended way of getting into bottom of the well. Or is he just doing chickens? Why is he doing chickens?
I know Keymaker is an older runner of speedrunning categories, so he's probably just used to it. There's our other magic.
Wow, rewarded. All right, well, now, yes, okay. Now they're going to do the bottom of the well by going to do an ISG, pick up your chicken, and then go into bottom of the well by essentially shield dropping it and backflipping to do what is called a cutscene dive, where you are manipulating the cutscene to bring Link all the way down to the bottom of the well, and then you just swim straight forward. So, redeemed. Even though you may have the Song of Storms, which they do actually, not using it.
Also, we'd like to point out, as his blood has mentioned, that Happen Fours used the song to access bottom of the well, and so he is shamed. Shame on you. That's twice now, Happen Fours. Giving you the evil eye, even though you can't see it, because, you know, it's audio only.
I'm not sure if we saw anything in Way of the Hero GTG yet, so it looks like Arthur's going to play the Song of Time that he got in Crater to access the 3 checks on right side. Which is a heart container, which is always useful. Especially when you will not have tunics. Hammer is Way of the Hero because Hammer is required for Stonefire to complete all dungeons to get Nocturne. Also, we did find magic on Hammer Rocks, so there are a couple different places Hammer is used. Remember, this is still played on a standard weekly preset, so it does require the normal items to complete the seed. And that's kind of where logic is just a suggestion, but is not really needed to be followed, but also to keep in mind when completing it.
And yes, this is not a standard rule set. This is DDR rule set, which is a glitched rule set that has some relaxed glitches that are allowed to move around the world faster. There's a link there if you want the full description, but the TLDR for it is that most glitches are allowed, except globally you can't do any hovering, you can't use item manipulation, you can't use wrong warp, as well as a couple other minor ones. And you also are required to unlock dungeon doors the intended way, more or less, as well as you're required to open the boss door using the boss key.
Yeah, and because we do know now that chickens had magic, the hammer is not really necessarily Way of the Hero for the magic in Valley, although depending on the player's aversions to chickens and how many chicks they have left, they may not know that and think that it would be for the Valley Rocks. So that is a Sphere Zero magic.
And yes, Duke Dragon brings up a good point that this is glitchless logic.
Oh no.
And so you are required... Oh, did you get Bruto's letter?
Bruto's in Way of the Hero GTG. That feels bad.
Oh, especially since this is Arthur, who also got Hammer in Way of the Hero Spirit.
Yes.
Feels very bad, man. But yes, the logic is the same as glitchless logic. So anything you would be required in vanilla is also, or in standard, the logic expects you to get, even if we don't need it.
So Mirror Shield was found in Bottom of the Well also. And also another bomb bag.
Definitely a nice item to find, but not required.
Yes. Oh no! He's going to lose their shield.
Got slurped up by the like. I don't think he was intending to do that. There is a trick in order to get the Skulltula there without using the boomerang. I don't think he was trying to do that, though.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And Arthur trying to jump across to check the chests on top of Fortress. Potentially maybe doing horseback archery after this. We do have bow and Epona.
Also, is currently writing in Temple of Time. That's going to be murder on the on all architecture in there. Someone should really get someone to check that out.
So where is our hookshot at this point? Because we're basically being told to complete Stonefire and Stone Jabu, and what the heck? There are 2 hookshots out there. Where are they?
That is a very good question, and hopefully our players find the answers to that soon, or else they are going to start getting desperate and might start dipping into stone dungeons, something they very, very much don't want to do.
Yeah. Seems like Mirror Shield and the bomb bag are the only things to have been found so far in Bottom of the Well. And then we'll see the horseback archery.
So to answer your question, Duke, yes, Happen Force has.
Alright, nothing on 1000. Let's see if 1500 is going to save us from dipping stone dungeons. And Golden also doing some of the other checks with Saria's to see if maybe we'll be lucky and not with a piece of heart. I wonder if we should initiate a bet for Hookshot. I don't know if our restreamer is around at the moment and would like to initiate a bet. And never mind. Apparently. Was that all in 1500 that I missed? Oh, Lost Woods target in the woods? Okay, never mind. I was not looking at it, and it figures as soon as I said that, we would get a hook shot. So... never mind.
That is very good to find, and also makes that slingshot that we saw earlier, I believe that was at Bomb Shoot Bowling?
Yes, it would.
It makes that quite useful. It was Bomb Shoot Bowling?
It was second. It was the Kokiri sword and then slingshot.
Ooh, I do know, I think it was Arthur skipped that and just opted to leave, so that will be not good for him. Hopefully he's able to find the other hook shot fairly quickly. Yeah, if my interpretation of logic is correct, progressive items can only be Way of the Hero if they lock the other progressive items. So, in this case, the slingshot... I don't think the slingshot actually can be Way of the Hero, since there's only one check that actually locks. Oh, sorry. By logic, there are two. So it could technically be Way of the Hero in a very, very rare situation. In this case, though, that is not the case.
And vanilla piece of heart on Dompe digging as well. We're definitely going around to some of the more obscure checks that are still in logic, trying to find another hook shot for those that did not pick up that slingshot. Slingshot does also have logic for spirit in order to hit the switch across the bridge. If you do not have boomerang, boomerang was accessible though with chickens. So technically could be either, but I think Dobby stated earlier that slingshot is required logically to defeat Goma, even though no one in any rule set actually requires a slingshot to complete Goma.
Ooh, and Golden just was doing the Navi dive in order to get Bomb the Well, but he actually canceled the text box early, so didn't dive far enough. So we'll see. No, don't do it, Golden. Don't do it. Don't do this to us.
Shamed.
Shame. Also didn't play the song correctly.
See, even the game is shaming him.
Yes, if you do happen to fail the Navi dive like that, Navi by default will only pop back up after 20 minutes in-game has passed. However, you can shorten that by going outside into the field and dying. That automatically resets Navi, so you are able to then head up here and have Navi pop up more quickly. It's slower than just playing the song, but playing the song is banned. So, you know, it's the obvious choice.
It does look like Arthur picked up another slingshot from a different location. So hopefully we'll go back around and do child shooting after big pose. And missed the second shot. That feels bad. Yeah, we are all 4 of these players are hard avoiding stone dungeons because having to do all dungeons for Nocturne is definitely it feels bad, man. Specifically having to do fire and Jabu.
Yeah, Jabu in particular is really bad since it takes a long time to get there and there are only 4 chests in it. It is very gross to have to do. Likely would be to end up if someone does get desperate enough is they might just go directly to the boss and hope they don't need anything else. So if their goal is to get items, they might not.
And just a stick for big pose.
We'll see Keymaker just got his 10th Skulltula, so he's going to check that out. So we'll see what that is. Not needed.
On to 20. So Arthur going back child, hopefully to go to target in the woods. And get a hook shot and then progress forward.
So we see in the top right, Happen Forest doing a slightly easier technique than a Hess, just a super slide. It is a little bit easier to do, however, it's limited in that it only goes in a straight line. You do see then he transitioned into what is called an ESS, just by holding the ESS position, that allows you to move around, but it is slower in terms of just flat movement speed than Hess or super slide.
And Arthur gonna try and beat the clock in terms of, or not beat the clock. Wait for nighttime, I guess, to check nighttime cac. So get your 5 skulls, and also check Dompe digging, which we know is vanilla and a piece of heart.
So do we know if it's vanilla though, or if it's actually a different piece of heart that's been randomized to that location? We can never know.
That is also very true. Now, if it was the winner piece of heart, that would be nice. But it was not, unfortunately.
It is always good to find the winner piece of heart. Ooh, a Keymaker getting unlucky there and having his shield burned by Keys. The true enemies of any run.
Yes. I noticed when Arthur first did Child Spirit, changed the Hylian shield to avoid losing your Deku shield. And also Arthur checking 10 skulls for the Bloopy. Even if Bottom of the Well only had a bomb bag and mirror shield, now having more bombs is always a good thing, so at least you have something of worth in Bottom of the Well.
It's definitely not enough to compensate for the time loss, but it's at least a pity prize for having to go in there.
Yes.
So you see a lot of our players are currently looping back into where other ones have gone. So far, only Golden has done that check in the Lost Woods to find the hook shot. most of our players are hopefully going to go check back there pretty soon in order to get it. Even in DDR rule set, the hookshot is very useful, since you need that to access Forest Temple as well as Water Temple. And in this case, it's also going to give the players access to Shadow Temple.
Oh yeah, so using the command for standard will bring up the 2 weekly races for the standard rule set, which is what this seed is run on, with the exception of enabling useful cutscenes. The DDR weekly is run at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays. So this is one of those weekly races that we're going to try and restream more frequently, potentially semi-weekly or monthly. So if you're interested in joining these races, please definitely join the Discord and talk with us in the DDR rule set discussion.
One thing to keep in mind if you are looking to join the or looking to play a DDR rule set, because it uses the same logic as standard, it is entirely possible to play the entire seed using the standard rule set, and then just adding on whichever glitches you feel comfortable doing. In particular, if you want to use ISG for Phantom Ganon, you can go ahead. If you want to use Mega Flip to skip some stuff, you can go ahead. And it's very customizable to whatever skill level you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, so all the glitches that we see, if you don't feel comfortable executing some of them or are still in a process of learning them, it's not required to beat the seed. And you can kind of see now all the tricks and glitches that we've been using are not really helping progress through this seed, as this is one of those that are kind of shuffling you into following logic. So there's always a pro and con to using fancy glitches, but ultimately knowing the logic of the seed is the most helpful. The logic sucks in this one, though.
Yes, the logic is definitely interesting, shall we say.
Especially spirit logic in general. So Spirit Way of the Hero is probably already setting up for not a great time. Happen Fours is quick spinning for some reason. I don't know if that's just out of anger and frustration and trying to think of what to do, or waiting out time to do horseback archery. Maybe waiting out
My guess
time
is
for
waiting
horseback
time.
archery. But also frustration.
I think all players have their own thing that they'll do to waste time while waiting for time of day. I personally like to just hold the ESS position and spin around in a circle. It makes me happy.
And also, I didn't notice that we had shoes in bottom of the well, so that's also nice to have in addition to the 2 bomb bags.
Chews are nice in that there's a very easy strat for doing mega flips with chews. The timing's a little bit trickier. However, there's very, very consistent visual cues you can use based on the flashing of the bomb chews. You can use that in order to set up very, very easily. We also see in the top right Happen Fours, and I think Arthur also did the same thing, opting to get the Druid key and free the Carpenter in order to gain access to GTG. Partly this is probably because they want to do the opponent archery. However, since you only have to free 1 Carpenter, it's also faster to do that than to just clip into the dungeon or clip into GTG. One thing to note is that the definition of dungeon only includes things that have a blue warp. So that does not, you are allowed to clip into GTG as well as Ice Cavern and Bottom of the Well.
Yeah, we're seeing all of our players circle again on checks that we've already seen. Golden being the only one to have done Lost Woods target to get the hook shot, which is blocking the other 3 players from progressing any further and now checking earlier checks that Golden's already completed.
And looking at Golden's inventory that he's got, currently the only thing that he definitely requires is magic. The rest can or could be able to be skipped depending where boss keys end up being in dungeons. So if he finds a magic, he's likely to then be able to just complete the rest of dungeons in go mode and hope that he doesn't need iron boots, for example.
Yeah, we've not found any scales either, which is also very interesting because gold scale water is another popular way of completing it without iron boots, but I've not even seen one.
I do think our players here will be able to do the ledge cancel in order to do it from out of bounds. It is fairly precise to do, and so it does take some practice. But that would let you complete it without the iron boots for everything except for the item in the center pillar. We also see Golden is warping away from Spirit Temple, which does have one of the 2 magics. So that is going to be unfortunate for him that he's dipping out of Spirit Temple early.
Well, the magics were the Gerdu Valley Hammer Rock, so it looks like he did not pick up the hammer because that was in Child Climb, so at least would prevent him from getting that one magic, and no one else wants to do check-in other than I believe who did it? Was that Key?
Keymaker.
Key did it.
But yes, you are correct. Indeed, it was Hammer that was there, and Hammer got magic.
Yes. Yeah, Duke, you did not miss too much. Although hopefully Golden is going to take the owl back to Hyrule Castle and go adult with that hook shot, and hopefully go to Forest. And then it's a matter of time for other 3 players to do target in the woods. All of them have slingshot, so they all have the ability to do so, but it's typically, if it's for one check, most players will go for check density first, before going back and actually doing that one thing left in Lost Woods.
And yes, currently the only hookshot that we have found is in the Lost Wood target. We have not found any other hookshots. Yeah,
So
that tends to be...
Go ahead.
You can go ahead, it's not good.
I was just saying Golden is going to go adult, so hopefully that means we'll be able to see some new dungeons now.
Yeah, with a hook shot, he should be able to dip into water and dip into forest. So.
Arthur's doing it!
Nice. So Arthur's about to get his hook shot.
Ah, nice.
And I don't have the audio on Arthur, but I'm assuming that there's some very, very choice words being said right now.
Yes. Alright, now it seems like it's a race between Arthur and Golden to see if they're going to do dungeon progression. Arthur has done a lot more checks than Golden at this point, I believe, although they're not far behind each other. So Arthur is also going to do the exact same thing and wait out the time of day, because not having Sun Song does kind of suck for routing. And you have to wait out for daytime before taking the owl to get back into Castle, because we do not have Prelude.
Another interesting thing that we may see from Arthur is that With his knowledge, he is likely going to be able to clear almost all the checks in the dungeons, in the required dungeons. So he might opt to be in pseudo go mode, where he just hopes that he's in go mode, and just finds the boss keys and completes the required dungeon. That's my guess, since there are only 1 or 2 checks in the entire game that he would not be able to do.
Ooh, it looks like Golden is going to Forest Temple. Yes. And because there are 2 bottles, hopefully he has a fish, which he does on his sea right. So we're going to be seeing the Poe cutscene skip in Forest Temple.
How this trick works is that you have time to move around before the cutscene starts, and if you drop a fish and you catch it at a certain time, you regain control of Link while that cutscene takes place, and you're able to move to the elevator before it goes down. And that glitches out the elevator to then be able to move up and down until you die, or save and quit, or save and reset. Actually, I should say.
So let's hope for chances that this is the boss key in the first chest. And it's not, it's just a regular small key. The dream, rip the dream, but even though Golden is still going to be doing the cutscene skip, because the elevator is still loaded, you can check the bottom basement chest and still go back up and down the ladder as long as you have not died or save and reset. So you'll see Golden is going to pause buffer using the fish and then catching. There are some that don't pause buffer, and that's beast move and very risky. But pause buffer in this is very lenient, as we'll see from Golden. And now you can just easy. And Arthur definitely not far behind.
It's also a bit scary there, because you see that it looked like he was stuck in the elevator, which I thought I've been stuck in reset there. However, apparently if you backflip, it causes the elevator to go back down.
Oh, and a Goron tunic, which is also a feels Batman because it really wants you to go to Stonefire. Ouch. And looks like Arthur was not successful in the cutscene skip and did not even save and quit to try and do that again either. Which is also something nice, is because of the layout of Forest. If you do fail the Poe cutscene skip the first time, you can save and quit and continue retrying, and you do not have to go far to do so.
One thing that's interesting, and I know is a fairly recent development, is Arthur also has a setup in order to access the basement without using that cutscene skip. So he might opt to do that if he happens to find the boss key. It does not require hovers, though I think it is a fairly difficult trick to do. So I'll be very curious and hope he goes for it.
Yes, and Stone Dungeons does not necessarily mean the 3 child dungeons, which would be Deku, DC, and Jabu. So in Randomizer, the 6 medallions and 3 stones are shuffled among all of the dungeons. You do start with either a stone or a medallion. So the free medallion this time around was the spirit medallion. So they are required to do, in addition to that, for the other 5 medallions, Deku, DC, Forest, Water, and Shadow. So our 3 stone prize dungeons would be Fire, Spirit, and Jabu. So when we're referring to a stone dungeon, it is just the clear reward, whether it be a medallion or a stone. it does work in the same as vanilla. Then in order to get Song of Time, you are required to collect all 3 stones. So you need the Kokiri Emerald, Zora Sapphire, and Goron Ruby. So Ocarina of Time is Nocturne, which is something in this rule set that they don't necessarily need, which is why they are very hard avoiding collecting any of those stones, even though the game is trying to tell you, please go complete them.
We did also see Golden in the bottom left. He did try to do some clipping into the Song of Time block. You are able to skip that just by doing a ledge cancel, which is there's a specific frame while you're grabbing a ledge that you actually clip inside it if the alignment is a certain way. And if you retarget on that frame, you were able to just clip inside the blocks. And he was trying to do that and failed, and then played another useless song. So that's double shame on Golden. 2 songs now that he's played that he didn't have to.
Are we gonna have a counter of how many shame item or shame things that they've done, and then the winner will be the one that has done the least of them?
I think that seems like the best way to judge any DDR race. Completion time is optional.
Yes. We technically don't need a second strength. You really only need 1. You actually don't even really need a lot of them, because as we may be seeing from Arthur, there are a lot of different ways you can clip these blocks by using explosives. So strength is really just a suggestion. If you need it, we're really gonna hard avoid doing Adult Spirit. If we do find hover somewhere, then there are other ways of doing it. But if we do find a second strength, you could follow the logic. But having the 1 strength is more than sufficient to complete this dungeon layout. So technically, I think we're just light arrows from Go mode at this point. Am I right?
Well, it depends. At this point we are hoping that is the case. However, because Water Temple is required, it is possible that the boss key is in that center pillar, which is the only check that you actually require Iron Boots. If they get extremely unlucky and that is where the boss key is, then they will need to go find those Iron Boots in order to beat the game.
And it does seem like Happen Force is going to also ledge clip after sliding past Mido. Wonder if they're going to make the ice play. We still don't know where Prelude and Sunsong are, so one of those 2 songs, neither of which are really needed, would be an Ice Cavern. But it looks like they're just going to collect the Boomerang by using a Mega Flip.
Yeah, and in this case, if we're talking about the DDR rule set, Shadow doesn't need hovers, and Water probably doesn't need Iron Boots. It will depend. There's 1 check that requires it, and if you do have them, it is faster to use them. But for the most part, they're not required. Oh, that is true. We also do need some means in order to get to Morpha, so they might need hover boots or long shot in order to get there. That is a good point.
Yeah. Does seem like Happen Force is going to check what is on King Zora and see if they will dip ice as well. I've not seen much in terms of forest. At this point, I wonder if both the runners will just complete the dungeon fully to full clear it.
We also saw there on Happen Force's side the easier version of this under Defrosting King Zora. If you have a trade item, you can just walk backwards to a certain point and then just talk to them. And then just move back and it unloads them correctly.
Looks like we're going... I think we've seen this Great Fairy Fountain in Zora Fountain. Another bomb bag. Okay. That was the third bomb bag. And we did get a hint that this floor's floor master is, I believe, Choose. So I don't know if Golden just wants to go for the Choose. Oh, his forwards win. There are a lot of ways to clip into Water Temple. Dobby, I think you know them a little bit better than me. I think you were referring to the clip. But you can also do cutscene and Navi dives in addition to that.
Yeah, there are several different methods, some of which are a little bit contested as to whether or not they qualify for the rules. But bare minimum, you're able to Navi dive or Ocarina dive in order to get down there. You can also use, I believe, cutscene dive as well works, which are all similar methods to get to the bottom. You can do either of those two ways in standard using Iron Boots and Gold Scale. You can also do a very weird setup where you clip out of bounds and then swim towards the Water Temple at the entrance to Water Temple, and then clip back in bounds before you touch the loading zone, which would qualify the requirements for entering the Water Temple. As bizarre as it is.
And looks like he's going to do the unfortunate dip into Stone Fire.
Yes, Curry, one of the rules of DDR is that to do any boss key skips, you are required to open the boss doors. Arthur, we see here doing a really cool clip. Just saves a little bit of time to go into the back room and use the bow to hit the eye switch. So it just saves like 30 seconds or something. But it looks really cool, and that's the most important part.
Oh, and boss key. So at that point, you're basically full clearing the dungeon anyway to get that boss key. That's a bad location.
That is basically the worst location you could get. If you have hover boots and you know it's there, there's a quicker way to access that. But without knowing, that's about as bad as you can get.
Yeah. It does seem like nothing of worth in forest. So still looking for light arrows, either of the two scales, or both really required, another hookshot, or irons or hovers. Some of which may be needed, some of which may not. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be in Stonefire.
We'll see. Keymaker is currently going through Fire Temple, which will be interesting. We hope for his sake that he finds something useful quite early, and that way he won't have to do the entirety.
Yes. And when you enable useful cutscenes, you will still see this Darunia cutscene, which used in I believe traditional Hundo or in other settings, you can do a boss key skip by utilizing that cutscene. And unfortunately, with the DDR, you are required to find the boss key so that you do enter the door in the required fashion, which is actually very nice that it's right there. In order to reach the boss key door in standard rule set and logic, you require hover boots, or you require to go all the way up to the hammer chest and then knock the pillar down. So it's interesting to see how far they will be able to get to see if this is a bow locked fire or hover locked fire, because that does add a little bit into the logic of what should you have done before getting to this location.
Is there a location in Fire that requires the hookshot? Oh, Pierre.
Yeah, Pierre does for that one check.
Yeah, is there any others that are needed though?
Don't think so. I think bow locked fire is a lot more plausible.
One thing we will likely see, assuming Keymaker goes up to the second level, is that there is a clip you can do to get into one of the blades, which makes it quite difficult to keep track of whether or not you're supposed to be in a given area. Since you're accessing where very, very much earlier you're supposed to do.
And Arthur going to show the best strat in the entire DDR, which is ISG on Phantom Ganon.
So for those who might have started the run, ISG is infinite sword glitch. When you crouch tab an attack and you interrupt that crouch tab with some kind of action, in this case it's going to be asking Navi about Phantom Ganon, since Arthur hasn't played this game very much, so doesn't know much about Phantom Ganon, so needs Navi to tell him. And that causes his sword to be considered to be infinitely stabbing. So every single frame is considered stabbing. So that means that when he throws the beams at him, it'll reflect them regardless and doesn't need to worry about timing. Another nice effect of ISG is because you're stabbing every possible frame, it usually means that you will defeat a boss as quickly as possible.
So now that we've completed Forest, it is highly likely that Arthur and Golden will then both go and complete Shadow without the hover boots and without Nocturne by using the hookshot jump into the loading area, and then use Din. Since we did not get fire arrows at this point, use Din's in the logical way to enter Shadow Temple.
One thing that's a little bit interesting that personally I do slightly different routing is they're opting to do the two dungeons that we know that we can complete as opposed to going to water. Currently there's still uncertainty as whether or not we can complete it, though they might also have remembered that you can't get to Morpha currently, so that might be why they're not doing it.
Way the hero ice arrows is not possible because they're not logically needed to complete any of our checks. So it is just meme arrows. Although the joke is that you can use ice arrows on Bongo Bongo by freezing the hands to distract them so you can hit both of them easily. So we always like to joke that ice arrows are in it if they are in a way of the hero location is just for putting Bongo into logic, but it is not actually required to complete any checks. And also something to say is that if you do open Shadow as child, that does not mean that you can enter it as adult. You are required to open it in both age brackets in order to enter the temple. And yay, Arthur doing my favorite glitch in the entire DDR rule set.
So this is a glitch called hookshot jump. The naming will become very apparent very shortly. But when you bonk and then pull out the hookshot, it causes this weird state that you can then get a lot of height very, very easily.
And Poe being a jerk, not letting Arthur get the infinite sword glitch off of the enemy. So you technically can cross this seam without infinite sword glitch. However, it is significantly easier to fall off, and I think this was also stated when getting the hints across Deku Tree, is that when you have the infinite sword glitch, it does keep you locked onto the ground, which would also be used to manipulate the true spinner into not letting you fall. I guess Arthur got stuck, but when you use the infinite sword glitch on that seam, you're able to walk the entire length of the seam. It is incredibly difficult to do it without ISG, but it is actually possible. So much more recommended to use ISG in order to stay on that seam area. And you do have to be careful when jumping off so that you do not continue further and deload the door. As you can see beyond the door right now, that's the loading zone. While you're up at this height, it does deload the door. He seems to keep getting stuck on that corner, so I don't know what is going on. I guess trying to walk around it. There you go.
If you do happen to get stuck while you're doing it, there are some techniques you can use to get unstuck. In particular, if you're able to yourself, you can side hop and land still on the seam, and then keep going from there.
Yeah, logically, this seat is requiring you to complete all dungeons to get Nocturne. So we're just manipulating the logic and ignoring it entirely by accessing Shadow in completely different means.
The current strat for most of these players is going to be pretend the stone dungeons don't exist unless you absolutely have to go in them.
Which is why we saw literally almost every other check possible before trying to go into any of our stone dungeons. Jabu being the very last one that anyone would touch. So if we do get enough keys, I wonder if it's possible that Arthur would skip the majority of Shadow Temple to do Gate Clip. That is something to keep in mind with Shadow Temple, is that you can soft lock yourself if you miscount your keys, because a key is required to get to the boss door. So if you find boss key early and you have a key, you can think, oh, I'll just gate clip and go all the way back. But it is the potential that you have soft locked yourself into completing the rest of the dungeon if you have misplaced keys. So you do want to at least save before completing that. In the event that you do not find any other keys in the last 3 checks before entering the boss area.
In particular, yeah, as Charlie mentioned, the only problem that you can have is if there's no key in the back 3 checks, then you technically are required to find the other key in the rest of the dungeon. So if you do happen to use that key to get to the boss, you are locked out of the entire rest of the dungeon. Arthur's going for a very interesting setup here for the Mega Flip. I haven't seen this one before. There are other strategies I've seen regarding the torch in the center.
Oh, no. Unless that was intentional? Did not... Oh, yeah. Okay.
I think the reason he's doing that is it might skip the also pushing the true spinner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does look like you can clip behind it. I know that there is a way to do it with hover boots. Or not really hover boots there, but there is a specific area that you can mega flip through to clip through the gate. And I believe that's the setup that he's trying to do right now. And yeah, I don't think the players are too concerned about light arrows because same thing in standard, you can get the hint from Ganondorf. So that's always a failsafe in any of these presets that they may as well just complete as much as they can, and if they can complete all dungeons required to reach the Rainbow Bridge requirement, then they would just rush the hint and then save and quit. And it looks like Arthur has given up on trying to do the Mega Flip clip and is going to use ISG to move the true spinner.
I can't wait for Ganondorf to tell us that the light arrows are in Gabu. That would be just...
Yeah, that would be the icing on top of this seed. So Arthur going to shield flick to get rid of his infinite sword glitch, which is another way to change that. And using a bomb to mega flip onto the platform on the other side.
This location is also really nice for mega flips. Usually you have to do some fancy timing in order to make sure that you roll at the correct time. Because of the positioning of that torch in this specific location, that isn't necessary. You can just drop a 2 whenever and roll. You also see in the bottom right, Keymaker also did the trick in order to do cutscene skip in order to access the bottom of Forest earlier. In this case, we know that isn't going to be particularly helpful for him, but it can sometimes be useful.
Alright, no early boss key so far in Shadow, so looks like at this point we may just full clear the dungeon instead of doing any gate clip.
Especially since we still do need some item in order to access Morpha, so it does make sense for him to opt to clear the dungeon.
Shadow is notorious for having items needed for progression, and considering it would be done later in the game after you've already completed other dungeons, it's kind of like a shot in the dark, literally, if there would be any progression items in this dungeon.
Torelli, do you how many items there are in Shadow that are like can have potential to be good? I know it's one of the better ones.
You broke off for the first half of it. The question was how many items can be in here, I guess you mean, for progression?
Yeah, how many good items can be in here?
Well, you require all 5 keys, and I think there are 12 or 13 checks. I'd have to go pull up the list, but at this point, you would have already completed Fire, you would have completed Jabba, you would have completed Spirit. So and you require hover boots in order to enter this area. So it definitely won't be hover boots, but there is a potential that you could find iron boots or a hookshot. It is notorious in Standard that there is a hookshot always in Shadow, specifically a stone shadow. So there's a lot of opportunities in order to find some type of progression item. We've already found a lot of the other useless items. Okay, so it is 12. So 5 small keys, 1 boss key, so at least 6 general items in the pool, of which can be worthwhile. Of which we found a loopy and bombs. I think we found 1 other item, so there's still... Oh, and silver gauntlets, so strength 2. There you go. That's also something that could be potentially worth it. But I think there's only 3 or so actual item checks left that are not keys.
That is interesting though, because that means that there is there is another that is logically the gold gauntlets, since we're supposed to have done Spirit beforehand. Also, Happen Force just found his hookshot in an early location that tends to get skipped a lot, and so you can see frustration.
Yeah, so considering if we found Strength 3 in Shadow, Strength 2 is probably going to be in Fire or Jabu at this point, because we've completed all of the other checks. And that was also a really nice save by Arthur to get onto that ledge. I don't think we've actually checked 20 either, so 20 checks is something else, or 20 skulls is another check that we could do that could potentially have something worth. We know that 30, 40, and 50 are dead. And the rest of the always hints.
And yes, technically all of it's with the bow, but ledge clipping is cool, so it's fun to do. It is technically faster to ledge clip than to play, but with bow, I don't know if it's faster to ledge clip and go around that way, or just to use the bow and go around the other way.
Bottle percent. We have all 4 bottles now. Yeah, and we're not finding any keys in Shadow. Well, we just found 1. But at this point, the majority of the keys, including boss key, are heavy loaded into the back. So I think there's probably only 1 or 2 more items left, and then the rest are all of the keys. So that definitely feels bad. That Strength 2 would be potentially the only item of worth in this temple, which is Strength 3, logically.
We also have a really bad layout for bingo for the keys. You do not the small key to be in the back and for bingo.
And Arthur showing off that if you don't have the lens or hover boots, a safer strat is to use the hookshot target to show where this invisible platform is. You can also extend it to wait for like the clink sound as it hits it. You do want to be careful that you are waiting for it to have stopped moving before you jump. So you may want to watch it go back and forth to check the timing if that's something that you're not familiar with. But it is a little bit of a safer strat so that you don't fall and then respawn back into what is called, I believe, the Crusher Room with the falling spikes.
Yes, we are over 2 hours in now, so we're progressing. This is definitely on the longer end for seeds, as normally we'd have players in go mode or finishing now. And for those who may be arriving a bit later, this is DDR weekly race that is usually at 11 a.m. Eastern time every week on Saturday mornings. We have DDR is a glitch rule set that allows you to do a lot of movement tech earlier, but it preserves some of the logic in order for accessing dungeons. If you see the DDR command was used just a little bit ago, they'll have the full rule set if you're interested.
I think we saw the last item. So potentially the rest of the checks are all keys. We did see Big Poe. It was junk, so it was not worth. Both Arthur and Happen Force did check the Poe salesman. And thankfully in these settings you only require one. And that's the same for standard. Having to do 10 Big Poes would not be a check anyone wants to do.
Theoretically, you can use a glitch in No Iron Warware called Equip Swap in order to only get one Poe and hand in all 10. If that is not allowed in DDR, though, as Equip Swap is banned. Unless you message Golden enough to put it back in. There is currently a discussion around allowing some more glitches, and there is a poll that's supposed to pop up soon in order to discuss that. Exactly what glitches should be allowed in DDR. So you can keep an eye out for that. It'll probably be posted in the rule set notes.
Yeah, I think at one point we should either do a sub-incentive or some type of incentive to have the DDR rule set be played on an actual DDR pad.
I'm sure someone would be crazy enough to try it.
I mean, for, I believe, AGDQ, Trez did play Twilight Princess on a Smash Pad, I guess is the name of it, that Shadow Magi had and brought. So kind of similar to like a dance pad where it's just very, very awkward gamepad.
And Twilight Princess is a more complex game, so definitely be possible, though a lot of glitches would be significantly harder.
Alright, and that purple rupee is definitely the last one. Because we need 2 keys, boss key. Actually, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 checks left. We need 3 keys, so 2 more items. Boss key. Yeah, that boss key is pretty deep. At that point, you just have to full clear shadow. That's another awful boss key location for this rule set.
It would have to. It's another one that if you know it's there, it isn't too bad. But yeah, if you don't know where it is, that's a very terrible location for it.
So another interesting question is Ocarina Items. I know that it's also come up recently in being able to use.
I do know that Ocarina Items is one that is allowed to be used, and it does have some use, in particular in Jabu for a skip. That is another one that can be problematic if you don't know what you're doing, and you can actually delete items using that. But it is allowed to be used, and it can be useful in certain situations. Thank you, Duke, because I was absolutely not sure what was meant by using Ocarina Items for the chess minigame. I have no idea what they're talking about, so... I play on N64, so on 1.0, so I've never heard of that. That's very cool. Huh. That's cool. So basically, you can guarantee that whichever you pick will be fine. Because if it's not, you just reset.
So I believe there is a clip that you can do in this room to not require dins to burn the wood walls. Although having dins is actually nice so that you have a little bit more surefire way to do so if you have magic available.
Yes, if you didn't have magic and dins, what you do is you'd move up to the side of that spiky wall and have the Gyptos shriek. And while you're paralyzed by them, actually technically they're re-deads, not Gyptos. Well, when they shriek, you're frozen in place and just the wall just goes straight through you. However, that does take a little bit more time and does hurt you. So if you've got dins, it's usually the better option.
So, last check before Bongo is the Lens of Truth. Wow, that's pretty funny to have that deep in Shadow. In Standard and in these settings, which uses Standard, the lens is only really needed for chess minigame. However, you may find the lens early on if you are technically needing to cross the wasteland to get Requiem at its vanilla location. So because Requiem was found in the windmill early on, it is interesting to find, though, that the lens is in Shadow because we have not seen chess minigame, and Market is Way the Hero, so that's something that they could check.
Bomb Chew Salesman isn't randomized either. That's not even an option to be randomized in this branch. I believe Roman's branch does have that as an option here, but the main one, it is not possible to randomize the Bomb Chew Salesman.
Yeah, both the Bomb Chew Salesman and Medigoron are vanilla in this preset. So you can buy a Giant's Knife if you want to.
Which is very good for Bingo, since that qualifies as a third sword. But for the most part, it tends to be otherwise pretty useless.
And Arthur, I guess, a little careful about making that last jump to get across without hovers into the boss location.
Based on his equips, he might also be doing the 1.0 strat. He is indeed. There is a 1.0 exclusive glitch where you can damage Bongo before you're supposed to, and that means that he's stunned when you get down there, so you can super quickly defeat him. It's the Bongo quick kill. It's 1.0 only, but since all ROMs run on 1.0 for Randomizer, it is allowed. Similarly, you are allowed to use blank A on all of the different consoles, since all of them are using 1.0. So it was something that it's only really useful for bottom of the well, but if you do decide to use it there, you are allowed to use it there.
So it looks like Strength 2 and Lens were the only items it's worth in the Shadow Temple this time. So now that we have the Forest, Fire, and Water medallions, we'll get a check on Burning Cack, which is conveniently right outside Shadow Temple. Which I think we do know is going to be Sunsong because Prelude was in Ice Cavern.
It also seemed like Arthur heard you, as it looked like he was going to warp to water and then remembered the song.
Yep, Sunsong. So that'll be nice to have, since there have been instances that I think all 4 of our players have been a victim of time of day. So having that will be pretty helpful with routing, to not have to worry about your time of day anymore. And it does look like Arthur is going to attempt to complete some of water. And we do not know if the fairy or outside Ganon's castle Yeet Fairy is junk or not. We do not have hovers to kind of glitch our way past the block. But we do know that Strength 3 is available because we received Strength 3 in Shadow, and Spirit is a stone this time, which means you require Strength 2 in order to get into Shadow. So it is something in logic that if they find hovers, would be able to check without finding the other strength. Or they can find the other strength.
I believe there's also a setup just to use bombs and not worry about it. So we do know that we can't find hover boots at the outside ferry, to get outside Ganon's castle ferry, since you would need those in order to get that 3rd strength. So we know that can't be there, but it's possible something like iron boots are.
It does seem like going to get Pierre before dipping in.
But yes, for the questions in chat, they do need either long shot or hover boots in order to get to Morpha. Since they don't actually need it for anything else in the entire dungeon. It might be possible that they need iron boots in order to get the DOS key if it happens to be in the center pillar. But just to get to Morpha, they would need either hover boots or long shot.
And also, what happened in your top right in Happen Force, they use a glitch to skip hitting all the switches to access the boss key door in Forest. So you're just manipulating the out of bounds area to walk past all of those gates to reach the door. Which is allowed because you are opening the door in the intended fashion with the boss key. But it saves a bit of time as you don't have to push the block around and rotate the walls.
To note, to compare, there is something you can do in Shadow Temple in order to get to the boss door that looks similar to that trick in Forest. However, in that case, the boss door isn't loaded, so you're not able to open the boss door. So that one is not allowed, whereas this one, you're just able to open the door normally.
And looks like we found one of our 2 scales finally on the diving minigame, showing again this game was not actually randomized.
Wait, is this supposed to be random?
I guess so. Maybe we weren't told.
It's okay. They've only been playing for 2.5 hours. I mean, it's fine. We haven't noticed that it isn't randomized.
Looks like Arthur is going to not dip into water. And maybe clean up a little bit of Hyrule checks. Though I'm not entirely sure what is left.
One thing that is interesting that would be nice to find is if they had FW, that would make it a lot more enticing to dip into water, since then they could just really quickly go back. But they haven't managed to find FW, so...
Forwards was in Ice Cavern, so Happen Force has it.
Oh, you were right. Arthur doesn't, but that's true. You are
Yeah,
correct.
Arthur has not gone to
Happy Force
ice.
got that.
Yeah, the only one to have gone to ice was Happen Force, I believe.
Wait, Duke, aren't you tracking for Happen Force?
It's not on the tracker though. Oh wait, no, it is. I lied. It happened. Force Wind Endings is the same one. Or the ice. Yeah, on the way to ice. The iceberg.
Oh, and Golden is dipping into Jabu. Ugh.
Whoa.
That is definitely the sign of desperation right there.
Yeah. And looks like Arthur wants to try and go back into way the hero GTG to see if they'll find more than just Rudos. Because there are a lot more checks you can do with bow. So you can do... Well, actually, no. They had bow the first time they went here, so... Oh, Strength 2 that they got in Spirit. Not Spirit, Shadow. They can now do Silver Block Room for those 4 checks.
There are also some tricks you can use to get past it, but for the most part, they require hover boots. So in this case, that is not required. Also, nice rupee card count, Arthur.
And Happen Four is also doing the hookshot jump. Very nice. And yeah, we may actually see some items that we should have had earlier in Jabu, since we should have completed this logically before going into Shadow. One of this may be the logical strength too.
I would say that Arthur used RBA for his strength too, but he wouldn't. You can't get silvers with RBA. And we also see Keymaker going for that same hook shot jump into Shadow Temple.
Oops. And seem to have done the hookshot input a little too late. Oh, and Iron Boots! Oh, wow! What a play! That's a big brain play that turned out well.
He definitely would have preferred if it were hovers, but that's still pretty gross.
Yeah, especially since we don't know where another scale is. Oh my goodness. And Arthur doing treasure chest minigame, seeing that they found Lens and Shadow. So Mark it is. Oh, and Strength 2!
Wow.
Did I not just say that? Oh my god!
Yeah, you're really calling it.
Yes! Sometimes I do know logic. That also sucks. Yeah. So yeah, you were meant to do Jabu before Spirit. Definitely. That also really sucks and feels bad. But Jabu was the big brain play. And just some chews in Treasure Chest minigame from that lens. So believe we've seen all of our market items at this point, since we did do post shop. So the way the hero for market was just Dins. So that puts Golden in a really good spot, with having irons and strength too. So after this, I mean, it looks like they'll probably complete Jabu. Oh yes, doing the mega flip. Nice. So, completing it the DDR way by skipping the big Octorok battle and having to lower the platform. So you can mega flip and then use a precise roll from the block to avoid having to use the crate to press the block and then open the door. But yeah, it seems like now Golden is in a really good spot to complete this seed with the items that have been found thus far. So we'll see if Arthur is going to be lucky in finding Hover somewhere, or potentially having to dip Jabu as well.
We will see though. Golden still does need those either hover boots or long shot in order to beat Water Temple. So he is still in need to search for some stuff. Oh, and it looks like Golden's opting for the easier version of this. There is a precise jump and like roll you can do, but by far the easier way to do that is to use Ocarina Items on the Switch. Not like that, though, Golden. And if you do it done correctly, the Switch stays pressed down for longer, and you're just able to walk it.
Or not. Golden confused. It happened for... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It looks like Golden seems to be mixing up his setups for this Switch. There are two different setups they can do, one using Ocarina Items, and one that uses a precise roll, and he seems to be combining the two and it's not working.
Yeah, and Happen Force did another glitch where you do not have to kill the keys in the in the invisible blade room. You can hookshot the like and glitch yourself through the gate to get both of these items, and just then walk right through the gate because it is a one-way, block.
There's a similar thing you can do in Ice Cavern where you use a freezered, I think, and it clips you through one of the gates using hookshot. The one in actually easier than the one in Shadow. The one in Shadow is a little bit more precise.
Yeah, and feels bad Arthur for going out of logic, using that out of logic strength 3 as strength 2 to dip Way the Hero's Spirit. At this point, it's plausible that the Way of the Hero item could only be the hammer, although it could have hover boots higher up, since we have not seen hovers, although they could also be in fire, which we have not seen a full clear of. So it probably would have been better to stay in logic by going to Jabu first or fire, since those are completable with current items and logic accessibility. So I guess really trying to rely on the Way of the Hero hint, but unfortunately may backfire if the Way of the Hero item is only the hammer.
Well, we'll also see too what the item is on Baronade. Since the other two items we found here, while nice, are probably not going to be necessary. So we'll see if Baronade's ends up being something good, that will really hurt Arthur. Getting to Orpha without Longshot is allowed, but you need either hover boots or Longshot to do it. So they'll need one of those 2 items.
And gold scale. Wow. Well, Golden is really ahead of the pack with both iron boots and gold scale. So we're still looking for hovers, which Arthur just found in Spirit. Wow, that actually did play out that shot in the dark for that. So that's a nice find.
So Arthur is probably in go point. There is a slight possibility that he needs iron boots in order to get if the boss key is in the center pillar. Otherwise, he's good to go. So in his end, he is just praying that boss key is not in the center.
Yeah. And then also, we still don't know where light arrows are, so we know they're not in Jabu. So it is potential that light arrows could still be in fire, because that's another dungeon that we have not seen, since we've seen pretty much all of the overworld checks at this point. Or it's deep in water if we don't full clear water. We just get the boss key and skedaddle, which is probably the logical thing to do, so that we can just rush the hint. And then if you do have to go back to water, you do have Serenade. It's easily accessible, so there are ways that you can get back easily and just kind of bank on where the hint is telling you. God. Oh, thanks, Trent. Or Mod. Whoever.
So we'll be seeing here Arthur doing. He actually has an option whether he wants to go for Ocarina Dive or Navi Dive. It's full currently available. Either way, the goal is that he's going to be falling and then using one of those items to interrupt the other options, and the game is just, doesn't know what to do with you, so just lets you go straight through the water.
Wait, did Arthur get the long shot and not the hovers, and I misspoke? Because I don't see it on D-pad.
Yeah, he got long shot now.
Long shot hovers. Okay.
Same idea. It's something he needed.
Yeah. Just making sure I was saying the right thing, because I'm like, wait a minute. I knew it was something that was definitely worthwhile since they were immediately leaving. I think we just got distracted by the spammer.
And we'll see. Based on the boss keys, I'm expecting it to be in the worst possible location. So either at the back of the past Dark Link in the waterfall chest, or it to be at the bottom of the pillar.
So far, no luck with boss key, right? Or did he find the boss key? Was it map chest?
It looks like map chest because the water's still up. So that's
wow, that is
super
luck.
lucky location.
So we
That
had
means-
2 awful boss key locations in Forest and Shadow, and the winner in Water. So I guess that evens out.
And this one's good because the other 2 just wasted a bit of time, whereas this one, it actually skipped an item requirement. So this one is really good if you had to.
Nice. All right, so the play was definitely to rush the boss, and then now we'll find out where our light arrows would be. I think they're in fire, though.
My hope was Jabu, personally, but we've cleared Jabu, and they haven't been there, so... Ooh, Water Central Pillar for light arrows is mean. I love it.
Twin Roba is also possible. However, Way the Hero cannot point to light arrows because trials are not on. So even though it is Way the Hero, it would not be pointing to the arrows themselves. It is definitely pointing to the long shot and hammer. Which definitely was a hook shot locked long shot. And Arthur not wanting to pick up the key in the hope that does not have to come back to water.
I'm not sure, Shirley, do you know if foolish areas can have like light arrows? Because there's a hint that points there.
No, Foolish cannot have light arrows.
Okay, so we know that they're not. The light arrows aren't in water then, since we do know that water is foolish.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so then that does help. So Water, Wasteland, and Goron City. And the hero basically is for double hinting, so things that are always hints like Ocarina of Time, and the light arrows in general. Like if you had a Way the Hero Hyrule Field, it is not for the song in Ocarina of Time, since that is considered an always hint. And the light arrows is technically an always hint, as you can receive it from Ganondorf, as trials are not on. So Way the Hero would not be pointing to that. And for Foolish, it does include all items needed to complete the game, as far as I know. So if it is hinted Foolish, it cannot contain light arrows.
It is somewhat incorrect, though, because foolish areas can have ice arrows, which everyone knows are required for Bongo. So there is some nuance that you have to have.
And Foolish can have Bagoran Sword, which is also very, very useful. And Naru's Love as well, which thankfully was not in a Foolish area this time.
So we see here Golden found that magic and now has absolutely no idea where to go.
After the big brain play of doing Jabu, now we're like, well, now what? So where are your thoughts on where light arrows will be as Arthur is climbing tower?
Fire definitely has the best shot right now since we've done very little of it. I was hoping for Jabu, but my next hope is either Pierre or Trinidad. Where are you hoping for?
I'm hoping for highest Goron. In fire. I'm gonna go for that.
That's definitely also a very interesting one. It's really, really annoying to get to, and especially if you don't know where it is, tends to be pretty slow.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'm banking on Arthur with getting Song of Time, really banking on something requiring it, which would really only be River Chest, which is not going to be the case today with the Foolish Water. Toilet, which potentially is possible, or highest Goron. Light Trial is also possible, because if Ganondorf says that it is inside his tower, we're going to be seeing some deloading of the big block, because I do not think Arthur wants to go to Jabu to find his strength 3.
Likely he'll do. There is a super slide strat that you can do. That's fairly easy. That's a common bingo strat. So likely, if it ends up being needed, that's what we'll end up seeing.
All right, let's see.
Get your votes in chat.
Spirit! Oh my god!
Ooh.
Oh my god! Oh, and Arthur's gonna feel even worse because after getting Longshot, just bailed.
And that's a triple dip Spirit on his end.
Yeah.
Because he went in once for Hammer, once for Longshot, and he'll go again for Light Arrows. That's a big oof right there.
Yeah, and that even sucks because it is hinted Way of the Hero, and the irony is always full clear your Way of the Hero, but the Way of the Hero was not for the Light Arrows, even though they turned out to be there. Wow. Wow.
This has definitely been a golden seed. He is well known for having some terrible seeds.
And Happen Force doing the strat you were talking about earlier by using a bomb clip instead of hover boost to get into the outside Ganon Castle greater.
Correct. So we know for him this probably won't end up being useful since this can't have hovers. But yeah, it is a good strat since it skips all of the strength requirements.
So it looks like Golden is probably set up the best at this point in time for completion, since they had Dip Jabu, does have gold scale and irons, has strength 2, that they could go and get the long shot from Spirit, and if they full clear it, we'll already have light arrows.
I mean, personally, I disagree. I think the one that's best set up to finish is Arthur, but that's just my opinion.
Oh, well, I mean after Arthur. I'm thinking of like the other 3 that are still looking for progression. Maybe I should have clarified that. But yeah,
Nah,
Arthur
it was
will be
obvious.
the first
It's
to
just
finish.
more fun.
I mean, who knows? We could have an upset.
I don't even know where the light arrows could be that would cause that much of an issue, since at this point Arthur's got everything to do every check in here.
Yeah. I mean, if it's on Twin Rova and that's a full clear Spirit, that really, really, really sucks. But it is good that all 4 of our runners did get the Mirror Shield in bottom of the well. So it's not like this is an impossible play, because all of them have strength 2 from somewhere. Happen Force and Keymaker got theirs from Shadow. Golden got theirs from the big brain play of Jabu for the logical strength 2. So all of this is accessible, and it will be interesting to see how their routing will eventually come back to it. And it looks like the Mirror Shield chest was just the boss key. Again, pointing to potentially that it may actually be on Twin Rova. That feels bad.
That would be terrible and amazing. Terrible for them and amazing for us.
And also, kudos to you for calling that.
To be fair, that was like my 5th guess, so it becomes less impressive. And also, I was someone in chat mentioned it, and I agreed with them. But I would like to take credit.
Alright, well, we got this check and then 1 left before we find the light arrows. And because Arthur did not go to Adult Fountain, did not get their 4 win, so we'll have to do the big climb all the way back.
We'll see. So there's 1 check left before Twin Rova. So is Arthur going to get very slightly lucky, or is it going to be real gross?
You know what I found very interesting? I was just thinking is, oh, nice! Saved from having to do Twin Rova. The last check possible. Even though I think all of these players have went back and done GTG with hookshot, no one weird shotted to get to center chest. Even though that is possible in these settings.
Yeah, it tends to be one that isn't used too much since you have an abundance of keys. And in particular, you are able to weird shot, or you're able to save scum to just check the right side, then have 2 extra keys to do the left. So it sometimes comes up, but not super rarely. Another spot you can use the weird shot is in Fire Temple, which comes up a bit more often.
I don't believe any of their players did a weird shot to get the Fire Boss Key chest. They decided to do the circuit.
No, I think all of them, since they only decided to do fire because they found hammer, and that was they already had that to do it the proper way. And some of them, I think, didn't even have hookshot yet when they went in fire. So
yes, also true. So Happen Force is in the way of the hero spirit, so hopefully Wolf will clear it after getting long shot. So, because I think when they get light arrows, then they would definitely leave, because that's the only thing they actually really need to finish the seed. They don't need any further items.
That archery minigame was tragic. 3 tries to get an ice trap. Just oof.
Ouch. Yeah, and happy 3 hours. Alright, our final restreamer player going to be doing the hookshot jump into Shadow. Golden is going to be very sad finding only Strength 3 and Lens in Shadow Temple. And the awful key layout.
And yeah, the helicopter movement is another one that is one of many in OT that just aren't particularly useful, but are fun to do and look pretty cool. My personal favorite is hover skiing, where you're able to move forward using hover boots. And yes, we did see Golden get knocked down by one of the Poes. I'll have to make sure to make fun of him for it later.
Oh, Happen Force also doing the leave and gonna get the hint and have to come back for light arrows. Oh man.
It's definitely the most sensible play when you're in go mode, but unfortunately in this case it'll burn.
Yeah, you really can't blame any of the players for doing that, because when you're this close, you're gonna really hope that it's gonna be in another location rather than spending or potentially wasting more time trying to complete a dungeon that you don't need.
So one interesting thing on Arthur's side in the top left, we'll see up to use ISG strats by doing a power crouch stab with Master Sword, and then using Big Goron Sword. That might be we end up seeing here, or he might just go for like standard strats. looks like he's going for standard strats of just roll and crouch.
Yeah. And also, I know that the, a popular way to do this fight is to slide your way into the Ganon fight to keep your Master Sword, so that you can just use Master Sword strats instead of having to load a jump slash and use hammer.
Correct. For some reason, the act of the Master Sword leaving your inventory is linked to the animation of it getting knocked off, and so when you super slide, you can't change animation, and so you keep the Master Sword. It's one of the many things in OOT that just work.
And also, it's pretty cool. So if you don't have hammer or Begoron sword, there are definitely other ways to keep your Master Sword and the extra damage boost that comes with it, so you only need to do 3 shots. However, you could use Nuts. Nuts is always a good backup strap. Never discount it in any setting. Yeah, and Arthur about to do the final blow for the first finisher on Restream. And also, potentially, if not snipe, the first one to actually complete in the race, too.
I believe so, since I don't think we've gotten a message in chat yet for any of the other racers. So,
yep, confirmed. GG Arthur, first place, with a time of 3:05:01. Man, this was a rough seed. I see him shaking his head.
Yeah, it's definitely been a very rough seed in terms of a very late hook shot. So that was not so nice, but still we got to see some really good glitches being used, and we'll probably see some more on the end of all the other players too.
Yeah, overall, even though quite interesting logic route, we got to see the hookshot jump to skip doing all dungeons. We got to do the post skip, even though Boss Key and Forest was quite in a really awful location. We completed the seed without hovers. We don't know where our hovers is still. So they were very possible potentially in fire at this point, because I doubt anyone is going to go back to fire.
Oh, so I almost certainly know.
Cool. Yeah. So overall, this turned out pretty well.
We also got to see many of our runners go for the clip into the bottom of the well, and the ones that didn't are dead to us.
Hovers are in 20? Oh, are we saying that well, we didn't see 20 skulls, did we? Yeah, but it is a potential. I mean, no one handed in their 20 skulls either, even though a couple of these players have it, or at least that I can remember seeing.
If someone goes and checks them there, that would be really rough. It's another one of those checks that you can do super early, but people tend to put off.
Especially because...
Didn't see a 20? I think someone checked 20, actually.
Okay. Yeah, when it's not a skull seed, you really kind of, like, block it out of your mind. Just since 30, 40, and 50 are dead. It's not something that check. And also, Kakariko was not Way the hero. So that did not point to 10 or 20 as a potential requirement as well. Typically, at least in my routing, if I see Kakway the hero, then I will route in 10 and 20 skulls for sure. But we did not get a Way the hero hint for that today. So Happen Force is gonna be basically following the same route after completing Morpha, getting the hint, and then feeling very sad to have to go back to Spirit and then climb all the way to the top for the light arrows.
At this point, we'll see Happen Force climb back up and then have to go back to Spirit and presumably also get kind of annoyed at a triple dip for Spirit.
Yep. I guess we'll wait and see what Golden and Keymaker will do. Either Keymaker's gonna clear away the hero GTG and then hopefully go to Way the Hero Spirit to get their long shot. Golden will probably be on the same path. Although they will be getting Strength 3 since they did the Jabu dip after completing Shadow.
I'm also personally hoping one of them finds hover boots, mostly just since I'm curious where they are.
I still think fire at this point. Unless they are on Twin Roba.
Oh, that would be... Oh. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I doubt that that Golden and Keymaker will actually go all the way to Twin Roba, because after getting Long Shot and Light Arrows, they know that they can complete the seed. So at that point, we're just rushed to finish.
We'll also see Arthur didn't mess up the final stairs leading to Ganon, whereas Happen Force has his bombs equipped, so I'm hoping he goes for it. It doesn't save a lot of time, but it looks pretty cool. And also the thought of like moving quickly upstairs is funny.
Oh, and Happen Force not getting the double quick kill of these two Iron Knuckles. But thankfully the long reach of the and also the benefit for Happen Force is that they went and got Forwards Win from Fountain, so one of the 4 players on Restream that has that, so that's gonna feel great when they get Light Arrows from Spirit to just go all the way back instead of the long way Arthur had to do.
And Happen Force missing up the Hess and opting to run up. Shame on him again. Yes.
He gets a second shot though, so as long as he gets it on the second try.
That's true. If he gets the second try, he will be forgiven.
Alright. Keymaker, gonna do horseback archery, I guess, before finishing out Fortress. Hello?
Hello.
Welcome, Arthur.
GG!
GG.
Congrats on first.
Yeah, it's really good feeling to win, but even if it's not the whole thing. It was nice. Nice seed. It was difficult for me to feel ahead because of the hookshot. Hookshot was on Slingshot target in Lost Woods, and I think at some point I did Child 2 and went to the Zora River, and I had the Slingshot. So then when I discovered the hookshot, I was very scared because I thought, oh, I was just at that spot some minutes ago and I didn't find it, and now I have done some other stuff that took me a long time, so it was complicated to keep believing it, but maybe it was for the best because that helped me find some other items like the hammer, even if it was not really necessary.
Yeah, having a logical all dungeons for Nocturne definitely changed the routing for pretty much everyone on Restream. So when we saw the Way of the Hero Hammer and Spirit, it was definitely not a great feeling that it was probably pushing you to go do Stone Fire. But it did lead to magic. By the way, the other magic is on chickens.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
it was accessible early on, but it did have a use at least for that hammer. And overall,
Yeah,
like
I
having
mean, you could Hess through that,
Mhm.
or you could weird shot through. So maybe it was
Yeah.
skippable, but it's always more convenient. Like you want to do it more if you have the hammer. But yeah, the way of the heroes were like, I think to me that's one of the things that is really complicated in DDR is, do you want to believe in the way of the hero or not?
yeah.
Because Zora River was a boomerang, and then I went to Spirit, Child Spirit. I got a hammer, and then I went to GTG, and I got Rudo's letter, and I was like, okay, that's some nice research that I should probably not need all of this. So it
Mhm.
feels a little baity, I think, and yeah, that's why I think it's nice to have a rule set that also forces you to have some of the stuff. Like I've been trying, like, okay, it's not gonna happen, but I kind of wanted to force Dints for Shadow, and to force like Iron Boots or Gold Scale for water, because it also reduces the amount of bait you can get. I don't know what you guys think about it.
It's interesting you say that because this would actually be a really good contender for trying to force it, because as you were saying during your routing, finding the Way of the Hero Boomerang and Way of the Hero Bruto's Letter, Jabo actually did have your Iron Boots. So that would
Oh,
have forced
okay.
you to go and get them in Logic in order to do
Mhm.
Water Temple. And yet the only ones that got it so far would be Golden, and I don't know if that's actually going to be useful since the water boss key was in the map chest, so technically not even required. So this is actually a good seed to kind of discuss about that in terms of, is Iron Boots something really required? Or is it something that is just another bait item to complete the seed?
Yeah, that's true. Because if you, like, for example, the other, like, we have 5 Way of the Hero, and the other one that was like not a bait was Market, and it was for Din's Fire.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, like, if you don't really require, which the rule set actually does, if you don't require Dins, then it's another potential thing that, like, it makes a very big difference to standard, I think, because you don't really want to trust your Way of the Hero, like, even less than when you have I don't know, Saria on AD or things like that. But it can also be very interesting to be like, do you want to follow the hints or do you want to gamble them?
And Dins and Irons are definitely some of the ones that, if you do find them, it's still decent, since it is faster to use Dins to access Shadow Temple than using either Quick Put Away or Fire Arrow entry. And similarly, having Iron Boots for water makes it a lot easier to go through. So they're definitely ones that they're not bad to find by any stretch.
Yeah, that's very true. But then, you know, like, things are like that. It's also it's kind of funny like that. I think it's more difficult, but it's all right. It still kind of looks like standard rule set. So it's if you come from standard, you're not completely lost, and you can still, like, if you're good at standard rule set, then you can still have like a big advantage and apply your logical knowledge and all of that, which is really nice. It's the way that it bridges the two categories, which is a good thing.
It's also nice because we were mentioning earlier that since it uses glitchless logic, you're entirely able to do the entire seed following standard rule set, and that's
Yes.
completely valid. And then you can just add tricks as you feel comfortable, stuff like ISG and others.
Yes, Salty Sponge joined the race. I think it was his first DDR race, and I was very scared because he's an amazing player of standard, and I was thinking, like, if he plays it standard, he wins. That's for sure, because if you play standard, you go Jabu Fire and Spirit because you have to do them before doing Shadow. Jabu gives you Iron. I don't know what's in Fire, but likely Hover Boots, maybe
That's
a
what we
second
suspect
Strength.
too. So there was also a strength in Jabu, so that was the logical strength too. Yeah.
Okay.
So we just
The
don't
other
know
one
where
is in-
hovers, so we agree is probably likely in fire. We did not see a full clear of fire.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, fire was a tricky thing to think about. I wasn't really sure. It's only 6 items. So whenever I don't really know, I try to think of density. Like, is it the area where I'm going to open the more potential chest containing items per minute or not? So that's kind of why I went to bottom of the well. It was a bad decision, but if it was to redo, I would redo it because it's very dense.
I mean,
Yes.
Mirror Shield was in bottom of the well, so it was required
true.
to get your light arrows.
Oh,
But
true.
it
forgot,
is
sorry.
funny. A lot of all 4 of you went out of logic from the standard rule set throughout the entire seed, and that was something where we were an hour and 15 in and waiting for a hookshot still yet to be found, where we're kind of saying, well, logically there are a lot of things that we can do, but no one wants to full clear Stone Fire or to dip Stone Jabu. Stone Spirit was hinted way the hero, and everyone had done Child Spirit to find the hammer, and then ultimately had to go back at least 2 more times to get the long shot and light arrows. But
Nice.
this was definitely tough for trying to stay in logic, but also wanting to go fast and do all of the tricks out of logic.
Yeah, it's very scary. Like, should you try to go off logic and do the tricks, or sometimes you try some tricks and you just lose time doing it. I think it's a good strat not to get too far away from what you would do in standard, so that you can still try to think of what there is to do or not.
Yeah, and GG to Happen for is finishing in second with a time of 3:21.50. Yeah, this is rough. I would be interested in seeing what like following the standard playthrough would be by finishing all the dungeons, if this would have been a similar time.
Oh, I think Salty gets 250 or 240 maybe.
Potential.
It would also depend too where the hover boots end up being, since we assume at this point they're probably in fire because that's the best density for what's left that we haven't seen. But if they're in some other really gross location,
Yeah, there's not much left. Like, the other things would be Ice Cavern maybe, Fountain, Domain. I don't know what you guys have seen.
It's not an ice cavern. We did see a clear of that. For War's Win was in Fountain.
Okay.
We have seen Domain, which did have a vanilla scale and diving minigame. And yeah,
sweet.
pretty much the only thing we haven't seen was a full clear of fire.
Okay, so probably loaded fire. Did you see the boss key in fire?
Um,
I don't think so.
don't think so. We got as
Okay.
far as I think the shortcut Goron. Am I right, Dobby?
Okay.
So like not super far.
Yeah, I think around there. I know Maker dipped before he full cleared it.
Hmm.
Okay, because if the boss key is really late and you have to do fire, then you're likely getting the items that it contains, and then it makes things very linear if you follow standard, which is really funny. I think like it's really a tough decision when you see Nocturne on the AD. You know you can skip it, but is it a good play? On this seed, it was probably not a good play to try to skip it, but we all went for it, if I understand correctly.
One
Oh,
thing
yes.
that just happened that's interesting, if on Golden side, he just tried to do the quick kill on Bongo, but if he failed to do that correctly, Arthur might know the exactly how it works more than I do, but I think it's related if you jump down too soon. You trigger the cutscene as it's getting damage, and you actually soft lock. So at that point, you have to reset and start from the beginning.
Oh, did he soft lock?
Yeah.
Yeah, he soft locked.
Ouch. Yeah, like if you want to play safe, when you drop the bomb, you wait for the bongo scream. Like you're going to hear the bongo being damaged. I'm not gonna try to to imitate it, but and when you hear that, you side hop, or you do whatever you want to get in.
Well, since he restarted, potentially we'll just do the gate clip to get all the way back.
Well, I'm very certain he's going to opt to do that,
Yeah.
and we see him going there now.
Yep. Yeah, it
There
seems
are
like
just-
everyone. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say everyone seems to have been making the same play of once finding long shot, immediately save and quit and go and complete water, and then having the very sad time of finding out that you have to go back again to spirits to get your light arrows.
Yeah, but I think it still is the good play. Like, you always want to leave when you know you're in trial mode. It's because the probabilities that it's going to be anywhere on your way is really, really small. Like, it's a big risk to do stuff. Like, even when you have progression dungeons, and for example, you go through some other world to go do it, it's really risky to stop on your way to do those checks if you know you have progression. You could do it, but it's really risky because if the rest is on your progression, if the seed is linear, then it's fully lost time and you're gonna do the dungeon checks anyway. So the probabilities would tell you that it's not a good thing. So yeah, it's a fair play to just save and quit when you get long shot.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was just an unfortunate consequence that your light arrows were actually there.
Yeah,
And
I
for
was really
Happen Force,
scared of
it
my castle.
I know
Yeah,
that Happen
that
Force
too.
actually got lucky that he had FW, so he was able to just place FW and then really quickly, so it didn't have much time at all.
Yeah, that's nice. Is he joining for interview? I'm probably gonna let you guys. I have to prepare tomorrow, go on holidays.
Oh, nice.
Enjoy your holidays.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you very
Let-
much. Well, thank
You're
you
gonna-
for the
that means
effort
you're gonna
of
let-
commentating and everything.
Well, our pleasure.
Go
It's
ahead.
always fun.
Definitely.
Okay,
Well,
then.
GG, congrats. Enjoy your holiday.
eh, Thank you very much. Ciao, ciao.
Bye bye.
Jam. And the good news, though, is that if Arthur is gone, that means that someone else has a chance to win next week. Also, welcome Happen Force. UG on second place.
Hi.
GG.
Yeah, if Archer is gone, maybe first place is winnable. But anytime I race with Arthur, he always finish like about 15 or 20 minutes ahead of me. But it's kind of nice though, because I know when I'm going to finish. I just see first place Arthur, I'm like, oh, I'm done in 20 minutes.
And you don't even get to blame it on lag.
Yeah, I can't do it. I'm not an N64 player.
Well, I would like to point out that once again, you didn't do the clip into bottom of the well, so we're disappointed.
Yeah, I knew that would be brought up in the interview, but I didn't have Navi and it was night, so I couldn't kick a dive. So it was pretty unlikely for me to just dive in the well, since I had Song of Storm and I had nothing else to clip into it.
Okay, Golden actually went for the dive and then failed the dive and then went to go play the song. So he got neither got to show us the trick, nor did he get to save time. So
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate.
overall, what were your impressions on the seed and like where all the items were?
This hookshot was really, really tough to get. Like, wow. I was afraid that it would be in Fire Temple, because I knew that you had to do Volvagia to get it, and I really didn't want it to do Volvagia Stone. But I didn't have many checks left when I found the hookshot, so I was a bit scared, and when I found it, it was super late, and I wasn't really confident, because I don't know, maybe some people found it like way earlier, and that could have been bad for me, because that was the item that locked me from everything.
I think if I remember correctly, the first one to find it was Golden, but he didn't find it till like an hour and a half in. Like it was late for everyone.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, that was definitely low on the totem pole in terms of checks. But I mean, we really couldn't blame any of you, because most of you had already cleared the rest of Lost Woods, having found Saria early. So doing even like Skull Kid and other things as well, that you were going for check density first before going back to one check that was left.
Yeah,
So that was
sure.
a tough choice.
Yeah, it was really not easy to route, and Goron City was barren too, so you didn't have any reason to rush Lost Woods with Slingshot and Saria's Song, so it was pretty tough to get.
Yeah, and that seemed to lock generally a lot of the scene. We were having a discussion with Arthur on following the logic of doing all dungeons, since there was Strength 2 and Irons in Jabu. And then yeah, so it's interesting. Do we want to follow the logic, or do we want to hope that it's just wanting you to finish the dungeon so that you could get Nocturne? Because no one actually got Nocturne. We all hookshot jumped.
Yeah. But yeah, it was an
Shadow,
interesting.
But
it was an interesting
having to dip
step.
all of the dungeons. Although we have not found anything of worth in Fire.
Oh, nothing in Fire? Nice.
Well, we didn't full clear, so we all think potentially hovers are there. No one has found hovers yet. We didn't. There's still a bunch of checks left in Fire that no one has touched.
All right. But yeah, maybe All Dungeon was a good play too. Maybe a bit slower, but you had every item to do the All Dungeon seed like super early.
Yeah.
So maybe if you just followed the logic, you would have found every item pretty easily. But I don't know.
Who wants to follow logic though?
Nobody in DDR.
Yeah.
One interesting thing though is for the Jabu stuff, none of it was actually required. They're all just nice things to have. The one thing that would have been really nice is like if there happened to have been the hover boots in Fire, because that would have skipped a lot of searching for long shot.
Yeah.
But we still have no idea what those are.
That's what I like from the DDR seed. Sometimes you just don't know where some items are, and you look at the other player when you're done, and nobody has a clue. It's pretty nice. Like, we can all finish a seed, and we are like, oh, so where were hovers? And everyone's like, I don't know.
It's way better than the alternative where you're like, where were hovers? And they're like, oh, was that Richard? And you're like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Way of the Heroes also only really pointed to things required for all dungeons. I mean, getting the hammer in Child Spirit Climb, which everyone got, and we're thinking, okay, that's probably just for completing Stone Fire for all dungeons. However, there was magic in the Hammer Rocks in Valley. The other one was in Chickens.
Oh.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was nice that I think the majority of you guys got it from the Hammer Rocks instead of wasting time on Chickens, but it probably was logically for Fire, and most likely hovers, who knows, but like GTG only had Rudos from what we were able to find out, which also was kind of frustrating. The Way with Heroes were really not too helpful in finding actual items to progress.
Yeah, the Way of the Heroes were for the old dungeon most of the time. So, but when I found out that Nocturne was on OT, I was like, oh crap! Half my Way of the Hero are going to be old dungeon items that I actually don't need.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, this definitely was a routing challenge.
Yeah, this one, yeah. Like, GTG had nothing interesting for us. Ice Cavern had nothing interesting for us neither. And so was Bottom of the Well, if I remember. Like,
You did have Mirror
no.
Shield, which did bring you to Light
Yeah.
Arrows.
Mirror Shield, yeah. It was useful.
You were the only one to actually dip Ice Cavern too, by the way, and then subsequently on your way get Forwards Wind, which was super helpful to cast before going back to Spirit.
Oh yeah, FW is always nice to get. But yeah, when I found out Rudo's letter, I was like, oh, so Ice is in the logic right now, and it has a great item density, so I should go and check what's here. But yeah, I was looking for the hookshot at the time, I guess.
Yeah, that one.
And
Yeah, which I think is like a logical chance at that point. The hookshot locations were not great.
yeah. Or sometimes I was afraid that it was going to be like Child on VR, the Cocos, because that's without Nocturne it's a bit of pain in the ass to route. Without Nocturne and Sunsong, which was the two last songs, of course.
Yeah, that was definitely annoying. There were a lot of times that time of day hurt. I think all of you at one point having to wait for the next cycle. Not having Sunsong for this was definitely painful.
Well, Nocturne is nice for having for getting to see the hookshot jump into Shadow. Nocturne is definitely one of the nicer songs to have for just movement. CAC is pretty central, so it always hurts when you don't have it.
Yeah.
I mean, at least we did have Serenade pretty early on. That's another nice movement one.
Yeah, Serenade is nice to have early. It's one of the best warp song in Rando, I would say.
In your guys' opinion, what's better, Serenade or Prelude?
Serenade.
Yeah, I would say Serenade too, because it's a little bit slower than Prelude if you want to go adult, but it's definitely faster if you want to go to Jabu, or if you want to get Ocarina of Time or things like that. Oh, Sage finished. Nice.
Yeah, GG. 337.46. Keymaker's probably not going to be very far behind. They just got their light arrows and are going back up the climb to go complete the final fights.
Also has bombs equipped, so might go for the Hess up the stairs.
I tried to get it, but backwalk Hess in a stairs is not easy for me yet. I still need to practice.
And does not go for the Hess.
No,
Just-
even though he's got bombs equipped, so
Maybe I guess they'll do the Hess to keep Master Sword for the Ganon fight instead.
yeah, the super easy super slide, so might as well go for it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Arthur. I'm sorry, Force. Arthur got Song of Time. I forgot to ask him, but maybe what's your opinion on this? Is that you did have a hint for Song of Time, and Arthur was the only one really to kind of like crush it. Do you know why we may want Song of Time since it wasn't really needed for this seed?
Actually, when I got Song of Time, I had forgotten about the hints. So when I got to Bolero and I got the song, I was like, oh yeah, right, that was Song of Time. So Song of Time is useful for 1 or 2 checks. Like if you want a river chest in water, or if you want the item in GTG in a toilet room. But other than that, Song of Time is not really useful in DDR, I would say. So
Okay.
And I know you can skip every single instance of needing Song of Time in DDR. Though without hovers, that becomes a lot harder to do.
yeah. But I mean, it was kind of on my way, so I guess it was not a waste of time.
Okay.
My guess, though, is because of the way of the hero in GGG, that helps to get 2 checks, and it is necessary for, or not really necessary, but very helpful for another one. So my guess is because of that. But Arthur isn't here anymore, so unfortunately you can't ask him.
Yeah. But I was just curious because I'm starting to learn this rule set, and overall this was a really good seed to kind of see the comparison between how Standard would do this and how DDR would do this for an all dungeon seed. And kind of how really logic would either help you or hurt you in terms of whether you're going to try and follow the all dungeon route or try and skip and tiptoe around it. So overall, what were your thoughts in completing this in Standard versus DDR?
I think that I finished faster in DDR than if I would have played in Standard. That's what I like about DDR actually, the fact that you can skip things. Like you still follow the logic, but you just use shortcuts. Like I knew where I was out of logic or when I was in logic, and I was just able to get shortcuts when it was useful. And I think that DDR is a good rule set for that. Like you just can cut whatever you want. Like I didn't need to go to Jabu or whatever, and it was a good thing, I guess.
GG to Keymaker. He just finished
GG
with the time
Keymaker.
of 3:41.53.
Nice.
I know Arthur was on here but previously, and it's in the hashtag DDR rule set in the Discord. Was talking about some of the more restrictive item requirements that he's been wanting in terms of wanting to require iron boots for Water Temple and needing Din's Fire for Shadow Temple. What are your opinions on that? And
Well, I understand his point, and I also understand like the other way to think about it. It really depends on how you see the DDR rule set, I would say. If you take DDR as really an introduction for standard players to glitches, well, it could make sense to just ban Fire Arrows entry and Ocarina Dive to Water Temples, since I know that some standards players are really not willing to do these tricks because they are kinda tricky. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I mean, Fire arrows on 3, if I want to do them, I need to pull the video to get the instructions. I mean, for me, it's not that hard, but maybe it's not everyone that want to learn that like by heart, and I get that. But after that, if you take DDR as just an in-between standard and No I Am Wrong War, and you just still want to be able to do this kind of cuts, it's pretty nice. I mean, I wouldn't mind if they were banned, but I'm okay with the current rule set right now, so I mean, that's it. Like, when your Iron Boots are on Darunia and Saria is on OT, you are kinda happy to be able to skip that, but I don't know. It's really two vision of DDR, and I don't really know where to stand here. Like, I just want to play and have fun, but it's not just me, it's just for the majority of players, I guess.
Having fun while racing, that's banned. Not allowed to have.
Oh no.
GG, Keymaker, I saw you popped up. Congratulations
GG.
on finishing 4th.
Thank you. And nice job kicking my butt, Happen Force.
Thanks. GG to you.
Oof, that was rough.
Yeah.
That was not an amazing seed. A lot of fun though.
So we're gonna skip over all of the archery games. We're not gonna talk about the Keymaker. What are your
Yeah.
impressions on the hook shots?
Oh my goodness. I was at a point, it was like 2 hours in, where it was like, if I just had hook shots, I'd be done. And what was one of them was the slingshot game in Lost Woods, and the other one was Spirit, right?
Correct.
Oh my gosh. The Lost Woods one, that's on me for not checking earlier. The Spirit one, I guess, is also on me for not just going through and clearing the old dungeons earlier.
I'm pretty sure every single person on the restream at least has triple dipped Spirit.
Yeah, that's not
So-
super surprising.
One for hammer, one for long shot, and then finally for light arrows. So it was definitely a common theme.
Yeah, I was mostly... you kind of know something has to be in there on the child side, at least, because it throws Epona Song and Requiem at you. But then it ended up being the upper child side, I think, so it wasn't even that big of a deal to get there as child. It was just small keys.
Yeah, I think it was in the room with like the torches and the beam ups.
Yeah, I think it's like just before the main room on the child side. And I was... like, the main frustrating thing for me on the seed was that it was like 3 out of 5 the way the hero hints were pointing at all dungeon items. So every single
4
time I
out
would say,
of 5
okay.
even.
Yeah, so it was like, at that point I was like, I had GTG way of the hero and I had Spirit way of the hero, and I couldn't do GTG because I didn't have hookshot and didn't really feel like doing the hookshotless strats for the rupee room. And so I'm clearing through Spirit hoping to find something, like hookshot could feasibly be in there, I guess. And then I'm going through as child because I don't have silver gauntlets or hover boots to do it as adult. And then I find Megaton Hammer and I just groan. It's like the worst possible thing to find. It's like more things that open up things I don't need to do. Out of curiosity, where were hover boots and iron boots?
Iron boots were in Jabu, but no one has found hover boots.
Really?
We're
Okay.
expecting it's in Deep Fire.
Yeah. Has anyone full cleared? Oh, Jabu was iron boots. Okay. I
Jabu
like.
had logical strength too, and then irons. And
That's the one I missed. Yeah, I knew I missed a strength somewhere because the one I got in Shadow was out of logic, like hilariously out of logic. But
Yeah.
I figured, you know what, whatever, it's enough to do what I need to do.
Believe it or not, 3 out of the 4 of you guys got the strength in Shadow as your strength too. So you are not
Yeah.
Golden
yeah,
is
that's not
the only
super
one to get
surprising.
the logical strength too.
Yeah, I'm curious where those hover boots pop up. I like halfway through the race, I started doing the, all right, what's the worst possible place the things I need could ever be? Okay, we're gonna go there now. And a couple times that was like Jabu for me. I started going there, and like when I found the first hook shot, I was going to Jabu. Because I figured like it must be there because it would just be disgusting. And then I found the hook shot there. I was like, okay, never mind, we're going adult again. We got other things to do. And then just never got back around to doing it.
Do you know a lot of the boss keys in this seed were pretty gross, other than water? The
Water
ones in
was a
which the
godsend,
case
though.
gives. Water was avoiding those iron boots was just
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like when I got to that point, I was just praying for something good because I didn't want to go hunting for any more items. Like I knew I'd have to look for light arrows, but at least you get the hint for it. But I did not want to have to find iron boots because I think going to Water Temple without any kind of dive meter, without any hover boots, without any iron boots is just awful. There are so many places you can just kind of get screwed.
and I think the only one who actually had iron boots was Golden. So if they were for elves, they would have been real rough.
Yeah, that was like one of the maybe like 3 or 4 spots where it's really not that bad. At least that one you didn't even have to re-raise the water if you didn't in the first place. Like I think the room on the bottom could have been okay with the torches. A couple of the block rooms wouldn't have been that bad. Even just getting to like the middle room on the right hand side above Rudo would have been annoying because you don't have hover boots. There's a glitchless jump for it that I just never remember. So you'd have to put it to mid water. But yeah, that Forest Temple boss key was amazing.
Yeah,
That was
just
like
before
the
Green
last
Hope.
possible check. And I was so mad at my Forest Temple too because I had set up I did the elevator, and then I don't know how that Wallmaster got me because usually they reset when you get on a ladder. I was just so mad at that. It ended up not really being a big deal, but I could have skipped 2 Poe fights. So that was a little frustrating.
Yeah. Epipores, did you do the elevator skip? Because I think we had half and half. Some didn't, some did.
I tried to do it and I failed twice, so I just gave up on this.
Yeah,
Well, to
it's not.
your benefit, you had to go all the way through anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at that point, if you still need items, it's not a huge time save. I just like to do it because I like to open up the basement early just to have it there.
Oh my god, I just found out where were the hover boots.
Oh, where were they?
I was looking on Salty Sponge VOD to check how he did, because I know that he is a really strong standard player, so I was curious about how he did, and it was on Rova Arts.
What called that? Oh,
Excellent.
You did call that, Tommy. Oh, that's awful. So, yeah,
I was
you
expecting light arrows there.
so ahead for that. That's awful.
That's revolting. I was really expecting light arrows to be there. I was happy it wasn't.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
That.
I was afraid.
Oh wow.
too.
Oh, that's absolutely disgusting. Yeah, I feel like this entire seed was just a fight to like try to skip all dungeons, and the game was just fighting back really hard.
Yes. Yeah, this was definitely, especially with your way to heroes, not helping in the slightest, and not wanting to follow logic because no one wants to do Stonefire or Stone Jabu, where we're just like, please reward me in other ways, game.
For people who are in chat and might have missed the beginning, this is the restream for the DDR Weekly that every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 3:30 p.m. Central European Time, I think. If you're interested in learning more about the rule set, we've got a channel in the DDR, in the OTR Discord, where you can come discuss and to chat with people about different strats and learning. There's also, at some point soon, Golden's going to be having a poll talking about various setting changes that people have proposed. So if you're interested, you can keep an eye out for that. And even if you don't have any interest and are just a standard player, we still want your feedback. So please go check that out when it pops up.
And that seems like the perfect moment for me to chime in to wrap the stream up. I hope you all enjoyed the first monthly of the DDR weekly race coverage that we on ZSR are going to do. So every single month, at least once a month, based on popularity, of course. If you want more, we can talk about it. We'll have these races on, showcase something else than standard, and some more glitch heavy, or at least a little more glitch heavy rule sets. I want to give a big shout out to Dobby and to Shiro for handling the comms, also to Steve Master, to Duke, to iBot, and to Prince Sidon for tracking, to Arthur, to Happen Force, to Keymaker, and to Golden Serpinski, who's not yet done on a restream. And since that's the case, we'll actually go over to him and rate him now. And yeah, Dobby, you're completely unbiased. Of course you are. But yeah, anyways, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I know it's a GDQ weekend, so people are like busy with other things, but I'm still happy that over 100 people of you are here. See you at the latest next month, hopefully later this evening, when we are going to have the standard weekly of OTR. Beforehand, we'll have the Link to Past Randomizer Cross Keys tournament, which is coming to its conclusion soon. And yeah, check out DDR rule set discussion on the OTR Discord. Check the OTR Discord in general. And for now, that's it. Thank you all for watching. Take care.